Meeting. I'm Marie Ortiz. My co-chair is Joe Rasucha. Joe, raise your hand. Where are you? So many people in here. All right. As a reminder to members who are on, I don't see any members on virtually. Huh. Okay. But as a reminder to members, CB4 has a hybrid meeting policy you can find on our website, and Nellie provides the policy in the email we receive about this meeting. Essentially, there is an in-person quorum to hold meetings, and if you meet the exceptions and/or you're virtual, it's required to leave your camera on. Next to attendees of the meeting, I see we have some. Please sign up for the CB4 website to receive updates about meetings and information about events in the community. Finally, if this is your first CB4 meeting, this meeting is live streaming on YouTube and being recorded. During the meeting, we first listen to a presentation from different organizations, et cetera. Then the committee asks questions or make comments. Next, the public has an opportunity to speak and ask questions or make comments. And finally, the discussion goes back to the committee. And sometimes we decide to write a letter or resolution that goes to the next full board meeting for a final vote. And the full board meetings are the first Wednesday of the month.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
We are the first Thursday of the month.
Bravo, you're right.
Yes, welcome. I really had to think, because you know how I mess up sometimes, so I have to write it out. All right, and so before we start, we're just gonna go around the table and give introductions of the people who are committee members, starting with Katie.
Katie Stokes, committee member.
Katie with a K.
Katie with a K.
Dean Buckley,
Joe Rasucha, co-chair.
Kevin Collins, okay.
Katie Savage, CHDC.
And then we'll go to Dolores. And Ro.
Well, my name is Bob Member.
Rachel Lee, committee member.
That's why I just told them more.
And we have one more in the room. And do we have any members online, Nellie? Any committee members?
No, you don't.
Oh, okay. And let me see. Joe, before we start, I know that Yadira wanted to say something, so I don't know if you wanna, I was hoping that Yadira can get an opportunity to speak before we give updates really quick.
Oh.
So Yadira, okay. So the first item on the agenda is just updates about West 35th Street, I believe, and West 49th.
So, the meeting's gonna be 3 sections tonight. There's committee updates, and we'll report on those. Then there's a presentation about the CHDC resident concerns. We put it out, we'll share that portion of it. And then the last piece will be Chelsea NYCHA, both the council and the backstage and Mary. So first, everyone, we spent upload 317, 319 was pretty good. Spent countless hours in this committee discussing that project. And you also received an email on March 24th that was a follow-up with the attorney about everyone got all the FAR problem. And you noted that, in fact, remember our meeting, we noted they did have an FAR, it said no to be an yes, that it could be done. And it turns out that research it cannot be done. The ABS is not increasing the FAR at the site. So they then went back to the idea they're going to purchase development rights from the adjacent property to the east. They have not been able to come to an agreement on that. But then in the intervening time between our meeting and that discussion, when I was able to talk to them, the owners who were subject to the indictment. And there is a whole other legal issue going on there regarding shelters, NYCHA's homeless shelters in Queens, and hotels, and tax and stuff back and forth. It's tied up in the Winnie Boo, the bundling of cash and flushing the whole business. So this is currently it says they're taking a pause on this project. So we're going to put it on the shelf, and that's why yesterday it was sent back to committee, so we have the ability to pick it up again if we want to. The next item is the
Question. Yes. Remind me of a couple of issues. First, what happened to the residents, the original residents in this building, now that this project being suspended? Where are they going?
The original residents have been gone for at least 10 years. They either bought out or harassed out. because they were told that the building could be demolished. So of course, if someone tells you that's your home and you have no choice, they didn't know that the whole was.
Joe? I'm sorry, Joe, we can barely hear you. Can you double check the laptop, the audio that you're connected to the owl? I think you guys are connected to the audio.
Got it, we'll do it now.
Okay.
It says echo canceling speaker. The one above it, that one,
All the way up.
all the way up,
Yeah.
pick that.
Well, you're on the
Is that better?
computer mic, yeah?
Joe, talk again?
How about now?
That's better.
Okay.
Oh,
Right, so
no.
do I-
Can you give a brief overview from what you said from the beginning, then?
Do you want me to repeat the question or?
I think I need to do a quick retread.
It stays that they can move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, 317, 319 cannot move forward at this point because they do not have enough sufficient FAR. And it was the zoning that they thought they had, they don't have it, and they're seeking to buy from the adjacent property owner. But there's also a large legal issue with the owner. Oh, the last piece of information, the property has now been transferred from Mrs. Hu to our son Leo.
Okay.
So you asked a question, you had a question, what happened to the tenants? And it was 10 years ago when the illegal demolition happened. They were either harassed out or bought out, and they've totally lost track of. Our goal was just to get the houses done.
Okay, next question is, so, could this project end up in bankruptcy? And if so, what does that mean to the owner next door who has the FAR, the air rights? Could they end up buying this building? Could this play out in that way?
So I don't think bankruptcy is a path, more likely foreclosure. So there was a very large mortgage, a $78 million mortgage from the Bank of Shanghai, or some workout of that mortgage, either with this owner or maybe another purchaser comes in to try to work this deal out. I don't believe this is over. We're gonna see this again at some point, whether it's this owner or another owner.
But foreclosure is possible.
I think there's actually, as he put it, there's been a pause on the funding from the bank.
Okay.
And as far as we know, like nothing's happening.
There is a full stop work order in place, nothing's happening. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I do understand the like potential implications of even mentioning this, but have they discussed attempting to obtain some sort of variance that would allow them to move forward in exchange for some form of, it could be a community benefit, it
Or
could
increased
be
housing, right?
like, whatever it is. But I am curious, has they?
I think what's
explored-
happened is, I think they have some bigger legal problems outside of this particular property. That's what I think is the main driver at this moment.
I just would like to express that if there is.
There's no other means and methods. we should think
If
about.
there were other means or methods to think about it, because I think that if this project doesn't move forward in a short amount of time, it will likely be a long amount of time before a similar project moves forward, and I think that would have adverse consequences both for the block, and for the neighborhood overall, that, you know.
My sense is, I think we're gonna see, or the board's gonna start to hear from other possible purchasers or something, because people, when there's a problem, a building in trouble, folks will try to see if they can do something. about it.
Dolores?
I just wanted to remind us all that this is solving the problem for them, and then solving the problem is still awarding bad actors. And
Yes, even so.
that's a problem, and it's for a meager amount of housing, the real focus that this developer had was to put them on the top.
But the truth is, someone may step up and buy the whole site and look to make it a combination of affordable market rate. We don't know, but just, we want to keep the status where it is today, because we spent so much due diligence and time on this. The next item on the West 49th Street buildings, and I did announce at the full board meeting, for anyone who was not there last night, that when we first heard this, a number of us in this room entirely had collective amnesia, that in fact, this had been heard by this committee in June 2020. So Jesse and I went back to the June 2020 YouTube, and we were all sitting here talking about it. None of us had any memory of this whatsoever. We did know one thing though, which is important. That was obviously one of the most difficult months when we were learning how to do Zoom and stuff like this entirely. We have a draft of a letter. We have no record of the letter actually being sent out on that. So I believe this got lost in the sort of craziness of that May, June, July period. All the
I
shelters.
think there was trauma for a lot of people during that time.
I think we're still going through that trauma.
Yeah.
So, I did make that apology public at the full board meeting, I want to say it again tonight. As we proceed ahead in working with this owner, but again, the main issue is they're not in compliance with their regulatory agreement. They have a huge tax exemption, and the council members are working with the board to have HPD intercede, help. Because in the end, we help the tenants by bringing the buildings back to good repair and say, and we help the entire neighborhood by fixing the public safety issues. There's one more item, update, and that's from, Kevin. He went to the Mount Sinai, cab, and he can speak about that for a few moments.
Thank you for remembering.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Olivia, for giving me the opportunity to jump on the Mount Sinai West Community Advisory Board. I met over the phone and Zoom with Brad Corn, the Senior Director of Government Affairs, and Henry Hellenberg, the Chair. What's going on right now, at least to convey to the community board, the community is Mount Sinai West is expanding their inpatient and operating rooms, but because of that, to help assist that, they're relocating some clinics to either the Morningside campus or Harlem. And I have listed more, but it includes one of the orthopedic clinics, urology, surgery, vascular, etc. The community meeting on that via Zoom on Wednesday, April 16th, for those of you so inclined to attend via Zoom. This is the way you can do that. It's Wednesday, April 16th at 6:30 p.m. If you want to find out about that, if you get a question. And that's gonna be a community information session. And then also the CARES program, which is comprehensive adolescent rehabilitation and education services, which is for youth, to assist people with issues, behavioral health, or otherwise. That's moving into the district from the Morningside campus into 307 West 38th Street in the next couple of months. Community Board 4 has been notified about that, so just passing that along as well. And if ever anybody has any health issues, no matter what it is, or focus on, for example, maternal fetal medicine or behavioral health or community health needs, please let us and let me know.
Thank you.
And then we have an update, oh, sorry.
Hey, Kevin, just a question. So they are consolidating some units, some
Outpatient units, moving up to Morningside.
moving them up. Is there any idea of how that's going to affect certain things in our district?
From their perspective,
It's going to be great, I'm sure. But
most of these appointments are outside the district.
Question.
What their clients do.
Most of the patients being serviced by those outpatient clinics.
Kevin, when's the next meeting? Yeah.
It has been scheduled for much. It was just the other day.
Sorry.
Thanks, Jamie.
And I work with some, I work at Ryan Health, and I do have some patients that are already telling me they've been informed about their clinics moving uptown.
We'll do an update, Yadira, you got some announcements?
Yes.
Yadira from Sony Simo's office.
Good evening, everyone. Yadira Jimenez with Assembly Member Tony Simone's office. Just wanted to share some fun events we have coming up. We have an Easter egg hunt for April 12th, which is a Saturday at 10 a.m. Chelsea Green Park. I will share the flyers with you all in email. And we have a community town hall coming up May 3rd at PS 11, starting at 11 a.m. And we also have a no-cost mobile mammogram van at Fulton Houses, May 22nd at 9 a.m.
Thanks so much.
When's your town hall?
May 3rd.
We have a paying number who joined that one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We ready? Can you hear us? Do you want to introduce?
You're on mute, Betty.
Me?
My job.
Oh.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'll now turn the chair over to Maria.
All right. So we have everyone here. For the next item, Joe, you said you were going to announce that we need to.
I did,
You did already?
it's the beginning.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Say it again, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, for the record that, because our tenants, Flint Housing Development Company, and conflicted out, Maria can handle this part of the meeting.
So because Joe Stuccia is the Executive Director of Planned Housing Development Corporation and he's co-chair of Housing, Health and Human Services, that's why he's not leading this portion of the committee meeting and I am. And before we begin, I think there's a few things that are imperative to know. First is that there are current and former Manhattan Community Board 4 members who live in CHDC buildings, which includes an active court case. We are not weighing in on the court case at all, okay? Second, during yesterday's full board meeting, there was some discussion about a briefing or prep meetings that we have before committee meetings. I think that moving forward, what we're going to do is what we will do moving forward is we will discuss our prep meetings at committee, so you're all aware of what was said before the meeting, okay, for more transparency and clarity. And
Maria, we also might do one of these like little memos around that is a synopsis, and I think that was helpful, as I've had these other meetings.
yeah, that's helpful for you guys,
Yes.
a little memo.
Sort of like, give a quick background.
Okay, so I think that we need to incorporate that. If it makes us function more effectively, I'm all for it, even if it's more work. Okay, and also, don't get distracted, okay, and, oh, if we don't do it, remind us, that's what I wanted to tell you, because sometimes I forget things, it's okay to remind us. And also, I think moving forward, because of term limits, I think we're gonna start inviting members to some of these briefings or prep meetings, okay? So you see what that looks like, and to be more involved. Finally, for this specific item, since it was not on the agenda last month and it was supposed to be, I spoke to Jessie Bodine, the district manager, and I had said, I don't think it's fair for the tenants to wait a whole nother month in order to share their concerns with the community board, and I think we need to start working towards some solutions or resolving some of the issues before they even come to committee. So we were going to meet with CHDC in between March and this month. We were not able to, we were actually having a prep meeting. Jessie Bodine and I had a prep meeting with
Need the
Mark.
CHDC tenants, not CHDC.
Yeah, CHDC tenants.
You said CHDC.
So, Joe, I'm handling this portion of the meeting. Thank you very much. I know what I'm saying. So, we were going, CHDC tenants, HCC and CB4 were going to be meeting. However, Jessie suggested, and I agree, let's have a prep meeting beforehand with the tenants and with HCC before we even meet with CHDC. The tenants did not meet with us, okay? In that meeting with Mark, I did let him know, look, this is what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to discuss what the building, with each building, what the problems are, what the proposed solution is, and a time frame. Okay, so so Mark has the document, I think he's gonna be sharing that with us, I'm not sure, I'm sort of going cold on this a little bit, I'm not sure what we're gonna be presented, what we do know is the issues that were raised to us, I believe it was March full board meeting, and they're on this, the document that I have.
Coming up. Sorry. Your baby here is falling down on the dog.
You're hired.
Well,
We all make mistakes.
because could you just, in case someone doesn't know, HCC and then who Mark is?
Yes, so I was gonna have Mark introduce himself, but if you don't know, yes, thank you, Roberta. HCC is Housing Conservation Coordinators. They represent the tenants. And I would say they're a law firm, and Mark will introduce it better than I do. Mark works for HCC. And the full board meeting was actually, I'm sorry, in February. And there were 3 people who spoke, and some of the issues brought up were heating, water, no address on the building, lights out, lack of communication, rooftop issues, elevator issues, scaffolding. I think I gave everything that I needed to say. Let's see, so essentially for today, what I want the goal to be is that what we usually do, and we're usually resolve, issues, right? That's what we talk about, and that is our goal, that's our aim and our focus. So that's what I want us to do here, is be thoughtful about how we resolve the issues that are presented to us. And Mark, the floor is yours. Can you introduce yourself, what you do at HCC, and if you have a cutoff time, can you share that?
Yeah,
I
sure
believe you
thing.
do.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Mark Natanawan. I am a tenant organizer and I work with HCC. Maria, I think you summed it up pretty well. So I'm a tenant organizer. I work with lots of groups of different tenants around Hell's Kitchen in the Upper West Side who are experiencing, I guess, issues where they're living with their apartment, building wide. We try to resolve issues, as you said. So I'm looking forward to resolving issues with you all here today. I do have a spreadsheet, which I'm going to screen share with all of you if it's okay. And I could just dive into sort of sweeping through all the different issues which tenants have reported to me, which I've sort of compiled and organized into this spreadsheet. Oh, and also just to provide a little bit more background context.
Wait, excuse me, Mark, Mark, 1 second. Nelly,
Sure
does
thing.
Mark have access to share his screen? Or do you have the document already? I'm not clear.
He should be able to share his screen.
Okay, thank you.
Maria, before he does his screen sharing, for full transparency, this is very convoluted here. And I would like for Mark to, I used to be a board director and treasurer of HCC. And if I remember correctly, the landlord was the HDC, and perhaps still is, I don't know.
That's correct.
So for full transparency,
So for full transparency,
right?
the landlord for HCC, yes, is CHDC.
Is CHDC?
And the former community board for chair, Jeffrey LaFrancois, is on the board at HCC. And
He's
he's
the chairman of HCC now?
on the board.
Oh, he's on the board now,
of HCC.
okay.
And
And,
he's-
and what, and he's a plaintiff in this case?
I have no idea, but we are not weighing in on any court case. But he's a tenant of CHDC. And he's also a tenant of CHDC. I
He's
left
a
that
tenant.
out. I didn't want to put names on who lives where, but
Well, full transparency should be. All right,
yes, it is a little messy. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, Mark, thank you.
small world. We're all connected and know each other in different ways. What was it again? Yeah, I just want to provide a little bit more background context and then I'm going to share screen. So, yeah,
Do you have a cutoff time, Mark?
sorry.
Do you have a cutoff time? You had shared with me that you do. Is that still accurate?
Oh, yes, right. So I have to leave around 7:30 p.m. ideally. Of course, if this drags out, I'm happy to stick around a couple minutes longer. When you and me, Maria, discussed me presenting right here, I think we agreed that I would try to cap off my speaking time at around 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll try to be quicker than that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or things you would like me to state before I get into everything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
I
Thank
won't
you.
cut you off anymore.
All right. But yeah, I was just going to say that I first had contact with tenants of 554 West 53rd Street, one of the CHDC buildings, in early 2023. That's when I began working with their tenants association. From there, we had our first meeting with CHDC management around July 2023. And so we've had periodic contact with management regarding 53rd Street issues over the last couple of years. Much more recently, about a month and a half ago, some of the tenants from that building contacted me and told me about how they and some other tenants from other buildings were bringing up issues sort of across the portfolio to the community board. And so in the past month and a half, I've connected with this larger group of tenants across 4 different buildings: 554 West 53rd Street, 353 West 30th Street, 540 West 53rd Street, and 501 West 52nd Street, all owned by CHDC. I will be sharing the issues from notes that I've collected from tenants across these 4 buildings. The group is around 40 tenants or so that I've gotten in contact with over the past month and a half across these 4 buildings. And so providing that context, I'll just dive into sharing the spreadsheet right now. I will also note that for 53rd Street in particular, this document is built off of a previous sort of compendium of issues, which tenants have shared with management and discussed with them at different points in the past. But just rolling into it, I think,
Mark, can you make the spreadsheet larger, please?
oh yeah, sure, I'll try my best. Let's see what I can do here.
Bottom right.
Sorry, it's a little sensitive. Let's see if I can, there we go. Okay, I'm going to,
Oh, yeah,
let's
much
see,
better.
row by row. Okay,
Much better, much better.
Much
yeah.
better.
great. Okay, so I think top of my concerns and one of the recurring themes that I think residents have come to me with is just concerns about CHD staffing and communication in response to tenants' needs. Um, some tenants have sort of speculated, reported that they've seen understaffing within the buildings that they live in, staff turnover, and also some staff which were questionably trained over the past years. This is manifested in a number of different issues, according to tenants who have reported issues such as ongoing problems with timeliness of lease renewals, which result in incorrect rent bills, missing rent checks, as in like rent checks that they mail or hand deliver to employees with CHDC that never actually get cashed. Failure of front desk staff to deliver documents and messages to Diane, including annual income certification documents, and slowness with responding to repairs and other tenants' issues. Just on the note of sort of administration with rent and repair issues, CHDC had previously shared with us that they were planning on rolling out a new website, Rent Cafe, for processing rent and work orders in an efficient, I guess, digital manner in fall 2023, but that still hasn't been rolled out to this day. Rolling down the list, the elevator at 53rd Street is at 554 West 53rd Street is one of the biggest concerns that a number of tenants have reported. Breakdowns were reported by the Tenants Association to management back in 2023 when we first started talking to them, and they've still been periodically occurring. Some months there won't be any breakdowns, but they always tend to come back after a little while. During some periods of time, there's an outage every week or couple of weeks, and this is especially, what was it again, an inconvenience for those who are elderly or not very mobile. Response time is also spotty when an outage happens over the weekends. Sometimes it's left unfixed for a day or two, and the elevator operation within the building isn't smooth either, with it stopping in an improper sort of position, not quite aligning with floors at different times. CHDC had previously explored changing the elevator altogether. This is what they shared with us. However, they declined to share details, and there was never any follow-up plan. Tenants for a while have been asking CHDC to replace the elevator entirely. However, we never really got a comprehensive plan for how they're going to permanently sort of fix the outage issues. I'm going to try to speed up and be very concise because there's a lot of different issues which tenants have reported. And yeah, I want to get through all of them. So one other issue has been scaffolding, which has been up and not fixed in the courtyard since 2019. The scaffolding is up due to building facade repairs that need to happen. The original timeline that they shared with the tenants was spring 2024 for fixing this. Now the scaffolding is rusted and corroded and nothing is still happening. The most recent timeline which tenants have shared is January 2026. I believe they shared that in a letter to tenants just in like the last week before this meeting. Roof renovations, similar thing where they were originally scheduled for October 2023 and then pushed back to summer 2024, but as of right now, still not done. Adams Garden, which is sort of a vacant lot next to the building, was originally scheduled to be renovated and then opened back in fall of 2023, and then that was pushed to summer 2024, now still not open. Broken washing machines and dryers is an issue that was just in the past flagged by the Tenants Association. And to CHDC's credit, after meeting with the Tenants Association a couple times, they did replace the washers, drying machines. However, it took approximately 1 year for them to do so. Same thing with heating issues. I think that's another thing which we do want to give CHDC credit for. It was something that was reported early last year. However, it was unnoticed by management until the Tenants Association brought it up. I think just commenting on earlier, what we all want to achieve to like resolve issues is just finding better ways, better channels for tenants to report these kinds of issues to CHDC and then get them promptly responded to without needing the intervention of, I guess, a tenant organizer or a community board meeting with these issues going forward. Another final issue is just the entrance door to the building. Tenants have reported that the door itself doesn't work very well. And then also they've reported recurring issues with desk staff not being present late at night to bring people in. And some systems were proposed for addressing this, a buzzer / alert system for staff. So even when they're not at the desk to see tenants come in, they could be alerted to the fact that tenants need to be let in. That was never installed. And what was it again? The door itself has never been fixed. Looking at some individual apartment issues, I'm not going to go into every single one of them, but it's just individual tenants sort of confirming individual issues. One tenant, for example, has been dealing with roof leaks for years. She lives on the top floor of the building, and water keeps on leaking down into her apartment, creating sort of like ceiling fractures and mold that needs to be fixed. But the underlying sort of like fact that the roof keeps on leaking has never been fixed. Another tenant has been dealing with vibrations in his apartment, which he believes is emanating from within the building for years. This has caused him significant mental, emotional, and personal distress as he's dealing with a very difficult long-term medical condition. He's requested that CHDC look into this, also requested that CHDC relocate him to another apartment. Even though this has been an issue for a couple of years now, going back to 2023, still hasn't been resolved. And DEP has found violations for vibrations within his apartment, apparently, according to my last conversation with them. I'm going to try to go even faster because I see that I'm approaching 10 minutes and I do want to get through all of this. Heating issues at 353 West 30th Street. Periodic outages of the elevator. I don't think it's as severe as 554 West 53rd Street. 554 West 53rd Street, it seemed like that was really the tenant's number one issue, but heating seems to be the number one issue at 353 West 30th Street. Washing machines and dryers that don't work half the time. The front door apparently doesn't function as well over there as well. And then they report the same general issues with communications, administration, when it comes to rent, when it comes to leases, when it comes to responding to repairs and maintenance issues. Also just want to note that tenants reported to me that they have tried to sort of communicate these issues to some of their elected officials and landlords in the past. However, they were never able to receive kind of a full resolution on some of these building-wide issues. 540 West 53rd Street, same issues with staffing and communication. I don't want to repeat everything, but just 540 West 53rd Street tenants reporting the same kind of general concerns. For them, their main issue is security. They see people regularly trespassing and sleeping in the building or just being around there in the stairs and the common spaces on the roof, and that's a concern to tenants. There are a number of amenities which were promised but sort of not brought to the tenants up until now, including a rooftop and terrace garden, splash pad, children's playroom, and yeah, those are the main amenities they reported not being available to tenants despite being advertised to them. Staffing at the front desk has been a problem at that building as well. The elevator is also out there occasionally. 540 tenants flagged that they have been having a lot of trouble with their front door not being properly secured, which leads to sort of people coming in and also just not opening and closing very easily, and like the fob system not being activated there. Also, oh yeah, I think this is like one of their like top 3 issues or so. 540 tenants also reported cleaning and maintenance has declined significantly in the past year or so. They believe due to understaffing. There used to be regular cleaning services, but now the building has kind of gotten dirtier and tenants are starting to have to clean after the building themselves, according to those who I spoke to. Finally, and then there are some like individual repairs as well that need to be done in some tenants' apartments, which we can see in the spreadsheet, which I'll share with the community board and CHDC after, because tenants do want to see these problems resolved in the follow-up. Finally, at 501 West 52nd Street, tenants have reported just concerns with loitering, drinking, drug use, and loud music immediately outside of the building, even though, according to them, and this is something I guess we should look into, it should be a private area and there's a no trespassing sign, but apparently this just isn't being sort of enforced. Laundry machines there have been out of service for a long time as well, and those that work don't work very well. According to them, they lost backyard access about 3 or 4 years ago for, I guess, very specific reasons, which we don't need to dive into here, but they were never able to get that back. And then, yeah, some security sort of issues within the building. And yeah, tenants have also just sort of flagged that they want to see better responsiveness from CHDC management. So that's basically the summary of everything I've compiled, just notes from emails and conversations with tenants over the past month and a half, talking to them from like these 4 different buildings.
Mark, you did good, thank you. So first, the only thing I was a little confused about, and if you can, if it's not already done, if you can do it before you send it to us, please, is that every item that you discussed, if you can please have the building that you're referring to. I couldn't tell in some of the items if it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess that was maybe a function of like the screen sharing, but within the spreadsheet, there are clearly labeled tabs to
Okay.
designate which building is
Has
attached
what
to which
issue?
list of issues. Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, so far, 2 things. First, I heard you mention that the tenants have gone to some electives, and I'm curious, what has been the outcome of that?
So a lot of this is history, which I was not a part of personally, with the 3 other buildings. Like I mentioned before, I have been personally involved with 554 West 53rd Street. The other tenants in the other buildings, they're sort of sharing their like history of the past couple of years to me. Um, I think tenants have tried in different ways to report issues to their front desk. Um, and if their front desk wasn't responsive, they've tried to reach out to upper management at CHDC. And occasionally, they've tried to reach out to other people outside of the building. I think, yeah, they're just, tenants shared these details with me just because like they wanted to let me know that they have tried resolving these things in different ways, but they weren't able to get results. When it comes to all the specific granular details of which issues were reported at which moments and how they were followed up on, I'm trying to capture that as best as possible in the spreadsheet. It's a living document, a work in progress that I've just been constructing for the past couple of weeks with tenants. And so some of these stuff would probably have to be drilled into further.
All right, it's not super clear for me. The other thing is, I don't know if committee members have questions, but we have Ryan. Ryan, can you introduce yourself and your role?
Hello, everyone. Good night. I am Ryan Marcano, the Director of Operations for CHDC. Mark and I know each other. I am not sure what is the best way to answer. I've been taking notes.
Yeah.
So I can go in my building, or what do you prefer?
Well, the things that I circled that seem to be the things that, like the common themes, the things that keep coming up, that I circled or that I thought were most important. And I know that committee members have questions because they always do. They're very thoughtful. But so far what I circled in red was timeliness, lack of communication, the roof leak, and desk staff not at the desk.
Okay,
So if you could address first, I think, I would ask about the roof leak.
Okay, so the roof leak has been happening at 554 West 53rd Street. We prepared a document in preparation for today's meeting off of a YouTube video that we saw. We weren't given these list of items in advance. So you will see in that document that we prepared how many roof leaks we've had for the year, what we've done about everything. But the roof leaks specifically that I think Mark is speaking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is 554 West 53rd Street 7C. That roof leak has been going on for a while, that is accurate information. But what I think is missing in Mark's explanation is that we have done a lot of iterations of repairs to try to figure out what the problem is. I think some of what we are facing in this instance to make a permanent repair is access. So a tenant will have a roof leak today, 3 months from now, report the roof leak. And if they don't come to us to report the roof leak, they go to channels such as HCC to report the roof leak. So we are not getting information about issues in real time. We have now re-engaged with the tenant and opened communication channels again. She's allowing us access 1 hour per week to try to figure out how to resolve this roof leak. So for that 1 hour that we allowed access, we're doing different methods to figure out what the problem is. But we have been at this roof leak for a while. It outlines it in the document. We've had several different roof companies come up. We've had several different construction companies come up, and now we're trying different methods to figure out what the roof leak is. And now that we have more communication with the tenant, we are able to move faster.
I'm just curious, has it ever been proposed or discussed her relocating to another unit temporarily?
Doesn't want to. Because according to her, the leak is not happening often. It's a periodic leak that is happening once every month. But if it happens this month, we are not gonna know about it. It's not gonna be reported until 3 months from now.
Okay. Does anyone from committee have questions?
I do.
JD?
I have 2 questions. First of all, sir, would you identify yourself again with the camera?
Oh, thank you.
And
I don't see
Just
anybody.
please tell us in transparency. Are you with the press? Yeah. Please identify yourself. Please tell us who sent you here.
Yeah, hi, sorry, I was with you in the other.
Yeah, you said you're from the
Yes,
post,
it was
right?
the New Year Post, we were
Who sent
sent
you
here,
here?
we were sent here by one of your tenants. I don't know up his name now, but, was sent here to, and there was no chance, there was no chance. Interrupt and say hello, so I didn't
So you
want to
can, now you
interrupt.
can introduce yourself to everyone.
Yes, hi, sorry, my name is Marie, Cole, I'm with the New York Post, the photographer, Christopher Sadowski. And hi.
Okay, JD, thank you for that. 'Cause I-
Yeah, sorry, I
Thank-
didn't want to just get up and.
We're volunteers here. I don't like being on camera. I
Okay,
kind of
sure.
resent it.
Okay,
My image can be used for purposes that I don't like.
okay,
So I do resent information.
Okay.
I don't go for the post, frankly.
okay.
My second question, Maria, and thank you for that. I
Okay.
I trust you, you're
No,
not.
no, we won't photograph you or
Yeah.
anybody else doesn't want to be photographed.
My second question, Maria, and thank you for a great job. Heard a lot of, I don't want to characterize it as accusations, but a whole list of things.
Yes,
And I have not heard, but thank you, Ryan. I mean, this is a trial. I'm hearing a lot of stuff. I'm not hearing the other side. Where's the other side?
you mean you're not hearing the other side, meaning?
From CHDC, that's what Ryan's doing now.
Okay, so we're gonna go through the entire list?
No,
Oh,
we're not.
we're not, okay.
What I would like us to do is discuss major things. I already mentioned what I think are the major issues and the themes that we see. 1 second, Doris, and I'm gonna let you have the
Sure.
floor. And what I wanna do is have a plan for how we're resolving certain issues, not being here all night, right? Have a plan, and I would like us to have a follow-up meeting here publicly with CHDC. Ryan can come again in 1 or 2 months, and then we can see where we are at that time. That's ideally,
Thank you, Maria. And presumably, maybe some issues.
that would be the expectation.
Okay, thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, if it's helpful, I think I could just re-summarize sort of like the top issue in each building.
Yes,
Okay.
That remains.
the outstanding
The outstanding issues?
issues that currently remain.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And the
So
theme of it, not one little, every little.
yeah, I don't want to do the whole spreadsheet again.
Yes,
So yeah, recurring theme, I think once again is just responsiveness in terms of both like time and communication. from CHDC to issues that tenants report. When it comes to sort of top big issues in each building, at 554 West 53rd Street, tenants have been upset about the elevator breakdowns occurring sort of chronically and periodically over the last couple of years. At 353 West 30th Street, it seems like the main issue there that tenants are reporting is heating issues. When it comes to 540 West 53rd Street, security issues is one of the biggest things there. And then also cleaning and maintenance of like the general space.
Okay.
And then 501 West 52nd Street, security is also the main concern over there, it seems.
Okay, thank you. Dolores, I forgot, you had your hand up.
I didn't forget, Mark, you can speak first.
Oh,
So
yeah.
clearly HCC's made our job easy for us. They've been able to speak to a good number of tenants. He mentioned about 40 tenants that have contacted them across the portfolio. He's outlined primary concerns in each of these buildings. He's also spoken to a few things that seem like trends, hearing consistently that it's communication. So that's a very easy thing for us to be asking about how CHDC can either outline what they can be doing to provide communication better. The other thing is in terms of situations, I think that those are things that can be worked on, we'll call it more offline. I think the role of the board is really to figure out how we can press for CHDC to work on the systemic issues. Because again, we're hearing some of the same things across the different buildings. And just anecdotally, I lived in the same building for 56 years almost.
Oh, you gave away your age.
Well, yes, I'm counting the time I was in the womb.
Oh.
But my elevator's out a lot. I mean, I applaud residents for speaking up and finding ways of communication, but it would never occur to me to ever go ahead and seek a lawyer or call a tenant organizer because my elevator goes out often, because it does. But understanding if there are systemic issues, one of the things that in my building, which is an older building, that they have done, and this is just recently because the technology's changed, that they've added a communication ability that fits more for different types of tenants, where they can easily report a problem and they can easily receive an update on it. And that, I'm sure that's something that CHDC's looked into, but it's made a difference in terms of how people in my building complain.
Yeah, we communicate with tenants. Do we get it right all the time? Absolutely not. Are we responding on demand? Sometimes we are not. But we are communicating with them via memos in their mailbox. We are communicating with them via email groups. We're communicating with them every time they come to the front desk. Are we providing the answers that they want to hear at the moment? Absolutely not. So when we can't give that, the elevator's out now at 9 o'clock and the elevator's going to be fixed at 9:05, we become the bad guy. We have an elevator contract with LCD contracting. We have, in our contract, it says between a 1 to 4 hour wait time for response and service. If it's the weekend, the wait time is probably longer. If it's a holiday, the wait time is probably longer than that. How we communicate with tenants during that time, we try to give everyone a personal phone call. We've realized that system doesn't work. It just doesn't.
Do you also send emails to them?
We send emails to the tenants, we call them.
Is
People who don't have emails, we put memos in everyone's mailbox. So we try to communicate as best as we can, but we're realizing the ways that we're doing it is not working. So we are trying to figure out what is a faster method and a better method. Mark mentioned Rent Cafe. We've moved to a new electronic payment system called Yardi. We're still trying to figure out the things in Yardi. When we take one step forward and we think, hey, we're there, we're ready to do this, we go 10 steps backwards. So it's not that we don't want to release Rent Cafe, because that's gonna make our life simpler. Why? Because it has a tenant portal where a tenant can quickly go onto Rent Cafe and say, my elevator is broken, my washing machine is broken. It tells you when you report it and when you respond. So we are working on debuting that system any day now, because we know it's gonna make our life simpler to track. Yes.
Kate,
Roberta.
so about the Rent Cafe, so it is a system that will allow tenants to go on and like say, whatever, I just got stuck in the elevator.
Yes,
or
it
whatever.
is gonna be an electronic system, yes.
And then, for tenants who for some reason don't have online access, you'll have some other assistance.
We have a policy and procedure right now that the tenant comes to the front desk. If you don't, we have 5 sites with 24-hour front desks. And one of those front desks are connected to different buildings according to the area in which it's in. Right now, a tenant calls the front desk, or you come to the front desk and you make a complaint, and the person who's sitting behind the front desk associate is supposed to put that complaint into something we call Maintain X. It is an electronic system that we're using now to track all complaints, which we turn into work orders. So you will come down and say, I have a leak in my ceiling. So the process will be you would make the complaint, that complaint will turn into an inspection report. Because what needs to happen next is that we can't just come running into your apartment to fix something that we haven't seen, we don't know what's really happening. So we come, we do our inspection, and then we set a date with you for repair.
So, it sounds like that you have had a system in place of tracking the various complaints and things. And as we go through this process in the next month or two to finish identifying the tenants' concerns and coming up with a timeline of, and hearing from you all how they're gonna be addressed, is that something, is there some overview you could share with us? Like, there have been elevator complaints, 15 times in the last 3 months in this building and 23 times in this building. And they've all been, fixed within 24 hours or.
In
48
the
hours.
memo that we sent out to you, the letter, we categorize that annually to tell you how many elevator outages we've had in each building in the last year. But if it's something when we come back to you, you want us to quantify from today until the time we meet, we can do that.
That's a great suggestion. I would like that. Excuse me.
And I just had a quick question, because it sounds like security was one of the main issues at a couple of the buildings. Oh, yeah. I'm channeling Maria. So I'm just wondering how, because it sounds like that is a concern of the tenants, what avenues are you taking to address security needs? I mean, it sounds like there have at least been several instances of people sleeping on the stairway or on the roof or whatever. Do you have like roving security people?
So
or-
just for you to get a snapshot of what we're dealing with here, we have buildings that are 24 hours per day. And we are staffing those buildings with security guards 24 hours a day. They're not all security guards, they're called front desk staff. So front desk staff these positions from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and 4 p.m. to 12 midnight. Is the staff allowed to get up and go to the bathroom? Absolutely. Is the staff allowed to get up and go to the kitchen? Absolutely. Is the staff from the 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. and 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. supposed to do building rounds? Absolutely. I think what Mark is referring to is something that was happening in the past. We had a squatter in one of our buildings, 540 West 53rd Street. That person was a raving drug addict. How that person got into the building and began squatting is that they were cat sitting for a tenant who was in the hospital. The tenant died, the squatter stayed, the squatters were raving heroin addicts. They were bringing their friends in the building at the time. They were sneaking their friends into side entrances because 540 West 53rd Street, for instance, has a lot of doors, different doors, where tenants can open from the inside. They were opening the doors for the tenants so they can come through the side entrances of the building. At that time, we had a serious security problem. We had to hire additional security to be at that building with our front desk associates who were doing building rounds 24 hours a day. They were walking 13 flights 24 hours a day. That person has since been evicted and we have not, the tenants have not reported to us that they were having any security issues. We have security cameras within the building. An incident that just recently happened, a friend of a tenant came into the building and brought someone with him and the person got robbed. We have the person on camera, we were able to see it. They tried to say it's someone that when we have nuisance in the buildings, we capture their photo from the security cameras and we put it up. Saying if you see this person approach the front desk, know that this person is a nuisance and they're not coming to anyone in the building. So deny them access because you have to walk past the front desk in order to get into the building. So that person was recently robbed. They tried to say it was from someone that was we had up on the nuisance. We were able to pull from our security cameras. The person entered the building with the person that they knew. So
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying that, so you think that there aren't any,
I'm not gonna say 100%, there aren't any. There probably is gonna be 1 or 2 instances where we have a homeless person push in. We have mentally ill people at some of our supportive housing sites who open side entrances for their friends. We have found people during building rounds, sleeping in stairwells, sleeping in front doors. People are saying, well, my name is John and I'm coming to see tenant in 5D. You call the tenant in 5D, the tenant in 5D doesn't answer. John pushes his way in the building and runs to the elevator. The front desk staff is not encouraged to approach anyone. They have to, in that instance, call the cops. The cops have to come and remove the person who pushed past the front desk.
Okay, so, but you're saying that, the people, the front desk staff do rounds?
They do, yes, they are required to, yes.
Okay, and then I guess, Mark, so it sounds like it would be useful if, in the reports that you've heard of security issues, if we just find out the timing, because maybe they were security issues, but they happened what?
So I just want to share the reports from tenants from 540 West 53rd Street and 554 West 53rd Street, in which they both reported lapses in manning the front desk, in which sometimes they would arrive at the front desk and they wouldn't see anybody around there at all. This has caused issues where some tenants have been like locked out of the building when they need to be let in, but also tenants have reported concerns that if people aren't watching the front desk at times, then that's also how these intruders are sort of getting into their building.
Okay, well, then it sounds like that'll be one of the things, I mean, yeah, because it sounds like you're saying, well, they have to do rounds, but I
Yeah, they do.
understand, so maybe you need.
And when they
somebody-
do
a second
rounds, the
person.
time that they're required to do rounds, the front door is closed. Is it gonna be perfect every time? I'm not standing here and saying that we're perfect at it every time.
Yeah.
I'm not standing here and saying the person who is at the front desk who's supposed to lock the door at 10 o'clock when they do building rounds doesn't have a lapse in judgment and leave it open. I can't say, but I know what they're supposed to be doing and what they're reporting to us that they are doing. The building is not reporting to us that they have intrusions, so, I can just tell you what we are doing.
Thank you. I know Roberta had her hands up, but I saw the.
Yeah, I don't wanna jump in front of you, but it's not.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
Roberta, was yours related to this? Okay.
So my question is, so obviously the front desk associate can't be in multiple places at the same time. So when they're talking about, so tenants are coming in and they may not be seeing someone there, but they're just reporting that they're not seeing someone there at the moment, not that someone else has gotten in the building, correct? So there's two separate things. They're either reporting that they're entering the building and at that moment, they're not seeing the front desk associate. And they're also reporting that at other times, people are gaining entry to the building. And it's unknown exactly how they're gaining entry, but they are gaining entry.
Yeah, I think what you just said is accurate. They've been reporting those two separate things and they think it's related. If there's not somebody watching the front entrance, then that's how people are getting in.
And then you're saying also some tenants are saying they can't get into the building if the front desk associate isn't there. Is that because there's an issue with their fob, or why are they unable to gain entry to the building?
That's a good question, and I think it may have to do with the specifics of the way that the buildings are managed. So at 554 West 53rd Street, tenants reported there that the main issue is just like access late at night, like being let into the building. And I think that's just the system.
So
or
I
the way...
guess my question is,
yeah.
I mean, I have keys to get into my building. How do these tenants not have access to their building?
Of our front desk, this is 924, they do not have keys to the front door. If the front door is locked, because the person is doing building rounds, and there's a buzzer system that when you buzz it, you hear it throughout.
Got it, okay. Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, so the front desk is supposed to let them in at 554. But at 540 West 53rd Street, that's the building where the intruders are coming in. So that's like a separate building with the security issue specifically.
That building, every tenant who lives in that building has a key fob. So they should be able to let themselves in. If the
Right. So I think
Which building had a key fob?
540 West 53rd.
But I think you were saying, Mark, it's not about the key fob not working, it's about that people have reported seeing people there.
yeah, so
People
at
who are not supposed to be in
540,
the building are getting in.
yeah, tenants being able to like get in isn't the problem, it's intruders getting in. And
But
they believe
there's
that's because the
cameras
front
in the
desk isn't.
building, so when you are alerted that there is someone in the building, you're able
You can
to
see.
get them out. call police
Yes, we can.
and flag them so that they can't gain access in the future.
Absolutely.
But is it the same topic? Okay, Roberta, teeing myself up.
So do any of these buildings have like regulatory agreements where they're being supervised by another agency?
They all have regulatory agreements supervised by.
Yeah, that was my understanding, or I assumed because of the nature of that. Like, is HPD engaged or involved in or aware of any of these issues?
I don't think the tenants have complained to HPD. We are not being aware of these issues now.
Okay, that is helpful. I think you were talking specifically about how the payment transition system to Yardi was particularly cumbersome or difficult or problematic, and that would like hinder the transition to a perhaps a more instantaneous communication system, like Red Cafe.
It is part of the Yardi system, so we have to get the Yardi system up and running first in order to focus on the Red Cafe module, because they all feed into Yardi.
Is there? I think that there was concern that there's just a lengthy timeline. Is there like a purported timeline for the implementation?
The implementation of Red Cafe should happen in the second quarter of this year.
How is? But it's, we just hopped in, so it could be very soon. Okay, I may have had more questions, but I think that's what I had right now.
And then I have Rome, Rachel, and then Paul, and then Becca.
So following up to Katie's questions on security and the rounds that you have 3 shifts in the 24-hour period. Does your budget allow for only 1 security guard per shift? Or is it possible to have 2 per shift? So that one stays behind the front desk while the other person is running around?
That is not something we've ever explored, so I can't answer that question the way that you probably will expect, but we can get back to you.
It's a matter of budgeting, obviously.
Since you mentioned budget, can you explain whether or not you're for profit or nonprofit?
We are nonprofit.
That makes a difference. Yeah. Very. But I would love to hear back on that issue, whether the budgeting would allow for 2 security guards per shift, so that one can do the round that you need to, but one always remains at the front desk. That couldn't solve this, but it may be too expensive.
Rachel?
And if there's no budget for hiring 2 security guards, some buildings have maybe backup staff, porters, or other maintenance crew that can briefly relieve the security guard that's there, so they can take the appropriate breaks that's needed. So that's something you can explore just as an immediate response to that. I have one comment and a question. First of all, thank you to Mark and Brian for being here and providing color to the topic. I think perhaps the ongoing theme here, the biggest gap, but that's also the most solvable gap, given your willingness to speak with us here, is communication. And one issue that was raised throughout all the building was staffing. So could you speak to the staffing issues? And just to rehash, they mentioned maybe turnover, training issues, lapses in the front desk. We just talked about that, but ongoing problems with timeliness, incorrect rent bills, missing rent checks, failure to deliver documents, or little things like that. So could you speak a little bit more from your perspective? Is there an issue with staffing, training staffing? Like what's the latest and greatest situation?
Do we have staff turnover like every other organization? Absolutely, we have staff turnover. Some of it is because people do not want to adhere to the rules that we have laid down for front desk and what front desk is supposed to do. If they're not doing their job well, they can't continue to be employed with us. Our front desk staff has the most turnover. It is, I'm gonna say something that may not sound politically correct. It is one of our lowest paying jobs. People kind of use it to supplement their other income. So if they find jobs, permanent jobs or jobs that they will pay more money to them, they tend to leave. However, it is never a lapse in front desk staffing because we are required to always have someone sitting there. So there's never someone who is not at the desk because it's something that we are required. We have backup staff, we have permanent staff, we have full-time staff, part-time staff, and on-call staff in order to keep the roster going. And when the on-call staff cannot fill in, the property managers have to fill in. So we will always ensure that someone is sitting at a front desk building at any given time. There is not a time that we leave our front desk unstaffed.
Do you feel that you need more staffing? Is the current staff?
We
overall?
always need more staff.
Okay, I think that's kind of the glaring issue here is a lot of these mishaps that were reported, right? Like either missing timeline or either delivery or, you know, errors here and there. I think that could be an issue just.
We can always, we can always do it more staff. I can do it 3 of them.
Okay.
If I may speak,
Staff missing? Percentage of staff missing currently, Mark, I want to probably say 5% across the board.
Have you considered getting more staff or is that a budget issue?
No, absolutely, we
Should
are
be
always,
here.
we are always interviewing and looking for more staff.
You are.
Always.
Mark, you said you needed to say something?
yeah, no, I just wanted to say, you know, I've had periodic contact with Ryan over the past couple of years, through the TA at 53rd Street, and I just want to say I think Ryan is hardworking. I think it's just maybe a larger sort of like systemic issue with like the understaffing at CHDC or protocols not being followed by certain like, you know, people within the organization. Or the proper protocols not being in place. I don't know, maybe a mixture of all those things.
Yeah, but that's consistent with what Ryan is saying, right? So understaffing and again, even though you do provide training, some of them are not following protocol, right?
I won't say we provide the training, like as with anywhere else, we provide training.
Right.
The person who is trained, are they always gonna do it correct all the time? Absolutely not.
Right.
This is not a problem that I think is foreign to anyone who is in this room. But we are trying our best and we continue to train. And when we see a lapse in something, if we're training a certain way and we see that it's not working, we quickly pivot. Because the front desk staff sometimes tells us, okay, the way that you've instructed me to do this doesn't work because of these reasons. And we quickly readjust and pivot what we know that we've put out there that is not working and they're telling us it's not working. So training is an ongoing thing that happens with the front desk as situations change.
Paul?
Yes, I was, look at Joe, but this,
I know, I've done this.
so let me get the straight, just for the document, right? You guys have 1,086 apartments.
Yes, sir.
How many buildings does that spread over, general? I didn't see that in your.
About 80.
About 80 buildings, 1,000 apartments. And roughly, what's the average age of your building, do you think, per building? I mean,
We
I live in
have,
137-year-old building, so you can't swim.
what's the average age of the building? I would say some buildings were built in some buildings were rehabbed in the 90s. Some buildings were rehabbed in 2000 and our newest building was rehabbed in 2017.
But overall, I'm guessing that your buildings are on the old, Hell's-Kitchen being what it is.
Yes.
And
But they've been rehabbed.
having preserved so many of them so well, that the average age would be more towards the last century than this.
Yes, but they were all.
19th.
Right. Well, so your staffing is about 126 people?
Yes, 120.
So divided by the apartments, it comes down to about 8 point something staff. No, eight apartments per staff, that's like one person running a little 4-story, double-sided railroad flat building, not on my mind. That's a pretty high work, that's a workload, to be serious, to be in it, anyway. One person who would then be in charge of minding the front door, scoping and keeping ahead of the roof leaks, and all the other problems that are endemic to older buildings.
We have only 5 front desk buildings that have 24 hours.
Okay.
Not all of our buildings have 24 hours staff.
So all the other things you guys do adds up to quite a worksheet. And of the mixture of tenants, I know you guys have, I see from this, section 8, you every AMI known to man, the spread of your tenancy is really quite unique to this neighborhood, perhaps certain unique decisions, I don't know. But how many of the buildings do you have general offenses or. There are many buildings of yours that require there being on-site social services, am I correct?
5.
5 total at one, out of the room, about the everyone. And are those buildings, more or less of the, more from ruins or less from, I'm assuming more, I don't know.
I would say it's a mix.
Right.
It's a mix.
Okay.
Those are not only, I won't say problem buildings. But they are people who have supportive housing, social service needs.
Who lets people in the side door? That's what I want to know.
People in the side door know, people in the side door are coming through all of the buildings.
Really?
Yes.
Thanks, just a technical questions, thanks.
Hector and Pete,
Oh, wow.
and Kevin.
The issues, there's a lot of issues there, obviously, the amount of buildings, and, apartments involved. It almost sounds like NYCHA. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but, question is, seems a lot of work has been done on the facades. Is it because there was violations given and you guys were forced to do it, or was it just to beautify it?
It was subject to local law 11. Every building over 6 stories had to be inspected. And we had 3 buildings that were subject to repairs. 2 were deemed unsafe, which is 554 West 53rd Street and 501 West 51st Street. And those are the buildings that we have the scaffolding up. And that's the reason why we have the scaffolding up, because we don't want anything to happen to anyone who's walking below. And 307 West 33rd Street, they found cracks that are not deemed unsafe enough that we need scaffolding, but we need to repair.
Gotcha. It just seemed like I'm sorry, the amount of money that was spent on that already, because according to the reports of all the issues inside the elevators, the leaky roofs, the heat, which is really important. Would you like some water?
No, I'm good,
You
thank you.
sure? Okay. But anyway, I mean, if you gotta do it, you gotta do it, but it just seems like, reallocating funds might have been a little wiser to fix the interior or the exterior, unless, you were forced to, obviously, for safety reasons, but, if you have a nice car, it might look beautiful on the outside, but if your engine's, burnt out, it's not gonna work very well. Also, one last thing, on the heat and the hot water issue, how is that being handled? Because there's been a lot of reports, in here, and also, we've heard from tenants as well.
We have heard here at 110 and 30th Street is reporting, but we don't have a lot of heat and hot water issues. The building that Mark is referring to, 353 West 30th Street, we've had 0 reports of heat and hot water issues in that building. When we saw the YouTube video, from February, we took the initiative to do inspections in units at 353 West 30th Street, and we can comfortably say we had no heating issues. But that's from management perspective. We went in with our heat guns, we know what we're doing, we tested the ambient temperatures, we tested the convection temperatures of the units, and it didn't read that we had heat issues.
Right, just one last thing about the leaky roofs. It seems like there was a lot of repairs being done and it wasn't completely fixed, and on some of these jobs. Isn't it, feasible that, I believe it's like, if it's more than 25% of the roof is repaired, basically the contractors, a good contractor would replace the roof. If you have a decent, agreement, so to speak. I even think it's a reg somewhere, I'm not sure. 25% of the roof repaired, you sure? Okay.
In none of the instances where we've had a roof leak, we had 25% of the roofs repaired. We're having roof leaks, we think in the same spot. Some of the leaks were coming from the facade, some of the leaks were coming from the parapet. It's always reported as a roof leak, but after we've done our investigation, sometimes it doesn't turn out to be a roof leak. This one at 554 West 53rd Street is absolutely a roof leak.
And Pete? You forgot?
I didn't raise my hand, but I do have
Oh.
a question.
Okay, well, yes, Pete.
I'm very familiar with a lot of the stuff that you're going through in terms of nobody being on staff at the time. You mentioned that the security goes around. When that person goes around, is that person sitting on, is that anyone sitting in the front desk at the time?
No.
Have you ever thought of there is, I'm sure, technology out there that can say, well, if I'm leaving the front desk for a second and I'm going upstairs to, wonderfully always perceive that everything's okay. And someone's coming to the front door, and wants to get in, isn't there some, way to communicate when that person comes to the front door and the security is making his round or their round? That it can be buzzed to that phone that he has in his hand, like a walkie-talkie of some sort?
That is something we looked into. Thank you very much for that.
Again, there is a technology.
And less expensive than additional staff.
Matter of fact, it's like a tag, it's not expensive, it can be done, and it's just a buzz to the phone. That's all it is.
Butterfly is one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Kevin?
Sure.
And then I'm gonna call on Liam and Travis.
Okay. Mark and Ryan, thank you very much for your presentations. I'd like to hear from Mark and Ryan. In your opinion, what would you say is the most constructive way forward for transparency and communication for the tenants to inform the landlord of issues and for the landlord to get back to the tenants? Mark?
So I think one thing that tenants have reported is they will go to the front desk to report some issues and it kind of gets lost in the void. So I think ensuring that staff members are better equipped or trained to pass forward messages and pass forward repair requests and so on to upper management. That would be one thing that CHDC could maybe look into working on. If Rent Cafe or another similar electronic platform gets implemented in the future and it works well for all the tenants, then that could be a great solution for sort of the, I guess, maintenance pipeline issue.
Thank you. Ryan?
I think that, and I'm just gonna be blunt, that sometimes the tenants bypass us and come to venues like this. So some of the issues that we're hearing here is for the first time. What I think we can improve on is the time frame in which we respond. Because we receive maintenance requests, but it goes through a system, so we can be more timely with searching that system and figuring out how best to communicate back to the tenant in a time frame that will work for them.
Thank you.
Follow. Why do the tenants bypass you and come to venues like this?
I am not sure.
Mark, Mark, do you know why?
Can you repeat the question, please? Bypass what?
Why are some of the tenants bypassing management and coming to venues like this to bring up the issues? Do you know?
My honest, and this is just my speculation, like I said before, I think Ryan is very hardworking as a manager of CHDC as a whole. I think tenants report a lot of issues to workers within their buildings and they don't see results. So they try to go to Ryan and Ryan tries to sort of like resolve these issues as best as possible, but she's one person. And so I think a lot just falls through the cracks at the end of the day.
Yeah, I just had a quick follow-up question for you, Mark. I know you said that you'd heard from about 40 tenants or so. I guess I just wonder, do you feel that there has been, I don't know, sort of sufficient outreach or that there's been enough discussion so that people know that if they have concerns to come to you or to come to one of the other people organizing this list?
Right. I mean, I guess I'll bring up a good example with 554 West 53rd Street last year, or like about 1 year ago exactly, during that winter. There were heating issues happening in that building. Some tenants flagged it to me, and then I flagged it to management. I think at the time it was a surprise to them, but to their credit, they did respond by doing some more, outreach to all the residents of the building. I think they installed more heat sensors around the place, or they adjusted sort of, and calibrated them to better sort of, provide heating where it's needed. And the issue seems to have largely been resolved at 53rd Street. When it comes to, what was it again? I guess 30th Street, where they are currently experiencing the heating issues. I hope that we can work together to achieve a similar outcome over there. But yeah, I have heard some reports about lack of insulation in apartments and insufficient heating or sometimes too much heating. It sounds like something needs to be looked into there.
I have a question.
Okay, I'm also looking at the time, so I'm hoping we can wrap up on this.
Do you have a super in each building, Lily?
Yes, we have 11 super.
in each building.
Yes.
Exactly. So that, those problems can be taken care of, as opposed to the front desk, which they have their own responsibility. Okay.
Your question was, is there a super in each building, right?
Yes.
And the answer was yes, right?
Yes, there is a super, sometimes the super is the superintendent, but a cluster of buildings that are within, one building here, one building there, one building across the street, so this one super may have about 3 buildings.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And the
Are they
rate-
all in
And the radius for that is what, 100 feet or?
100 feet, yes.
Okay.
I'm not gonna force anyone else to speak, but I did see. There's a motion. What is your motion? And then we're gonna go to Leon and, or we should go to them first, really quickly. Can you just make it brief?
Yeah, really quick, is the super the ideal contact for these issues?
No, we have a system, we have a procedure in place where a tenant has a complaint. They have to either go to the front desk of the front desk building attached to their building, if they have a non-front desk building, or they can call in to make a complaint. The super is not the ideal person, because that way we get to log it into the system and assign it to the super. So in order for us to keep track of it properly, it needs to go through the front desk and not the superintendent. He's the person who will be assigned to inspect or investigate, but should not be for the issues.
All right, so I have some things that we think, Laura.
2 very quick questions. So one, are the hiring issues that you mentioned earlier primarily human capital issues, as in the people you need are not applying, or you do not have the financial means to hire the staff that you need?
The people that we need are not applying, they don't
Yes.
have the qualifications.
And that seems consistent with what we're seeing across housing and social services. It is not specific. And then the second question is, there are outstanding capital issues that are appearing in these complaints. I mean, they're for older buildings. Does CHDC have the finances to ultimately make these repairs, or are there concerns that CHDC may not have the finances to make these repairs?
We have the finance to make repairs.
You have the finances to make.
Sorry.
Yes.
I just want to
And more.
flag, like, one of the main issues
Thank you.
at 554 West 53rd Street has been the elevator breakdowns, and tenants have inquired many different times at different points with management, are you able to replace the elevator, since it's been like consistently having these periodic outages over the last several years. I wonder if there are capital restrictions when it comes to those kinds of big ticket repairs that maybe need to happen.
Brian?
We are at a difference of opinion about replacing the elevators at 554 West 53rd Street. They are not that old. And every time we have an issue that needs to be addressed, it's addressed, the elevator company has advised we do not need to replace the elevators. The tenants may want the elevators replaced if they think it's working down a lot.
I do live in a building that's about 20 years old, many elevator issues, they replaced the elevators. Still elevators.
Yeah.
It's just a quick clarifying.
Clarifying question, then Dolores.
So, the elevator issues, are these happening in any buildings that only have one elevator?
That's a good one.
Or are these happening in buildings that have multiple elevators? Meaning, is there ever a situation when there's no functioning elevator? Or is it just, okay.
Yes, because 554 specifically are 2 separate buildings that can join together. There's an elevator on each side of the building.
And
that services.
So if your specific elevator is not working, could you use another one and gain
Not
access?
in that building, no.
Okay.
Not in that specific building.
Okay.
But other buildings that have elevator issues, there might be another elevator that.
In some, yes.
Okay, Dolores.
Yeah, I have a motion to write to CHDC addressing the very specific concerns that were brought to us by Mark and HCC, to outline that generally we're concerned about these issues and would like to hear back from CHDC on how they may mitigate them, and also if there are any issues that they think that they could also use some help in resolving, how the board can help. That's my motion.
Second.
Second.
Katie? We both seconded.
Okay,
Which?
C and
K and C.
C and K, friendly suggestion.
Liam, you got.
Hold on.
Hold on.
To make it easier for I guess the respondent and I think Mark had already outlined it in a way. Would it be helpful to organize the letter in terms of like short-term, long-term issues, like the more urgent, like quick fix issues versus?
Rachel, agrees to that motion.
Well
That is not a friendly suggestion. No, but I mean, I'm happy to help, obviously, but would that be easier to, because this is a lot of touching issues and there's like a lot of common themes, building specific issues. I think it might be helpful to break it down into like short-term fixes that you can also help, you know, with, and I want to note though, that I appreciate CHDC coming and being very knowledgeable about the issues and already being aware of these, and clearly there's been communication, so I think that would help both parties address this, right? Yeah.
And is there in the letter, it would just spell out some sort of time frame in which we
Yes.
ideally like
We love
CHDC to
time
return
frames.
and so that we have some accountability.
Yes.
Okay, let's ask, to hear back, the month, in 2 months?
Second time frame. Yes.
1 month, okay, how about 1 month? Okay, I get 1 month, one or twice?
Is
Is that
The time frame? Or the,
That's the motion. Yeah, there's no.
I'm sorry, I'm missing what's
Yes.
happening with
a discussion on the motion, if we want to discuss.
I would like some language that these are alleged problems. So in the motion, rather, let us find language to suggest that these are alleged, or these are.
Reported. These are reported
Reported.
issues.
Reported.
That's-
Whatever the language is, because
a common.
I've heard a lot, I cannot tell. I don't know this. Okay, I'm assuming everybody's being upfront here, but I'm not sure. So I think we need to be careful. These are reported problems.
As reported by HCC and from tenants that have reached out to them.
That's right.
Okay.
I think part of that, and I think part of that, you know, JD's point also is some of these reported concerns have been addressed. It sounded like, right, Mark, you have a very thorough spreadsheet, right? And you can tell us like which one's outstanding or not, it sounded like. Right?
Yeah,
So-
no, like I said, I've tried to, where it's useful, bake in detail sort of about the history and the timeline of requests and responses and all that. Still a work in progress. So I think maybe as we continue with the dialogue over the next month or two, we can continue to build out the spreadsheet with further input from tenants.
Yeah, and understand that this is an ongoing dialogue, like you may be getting more emails while we're speaking right now, and I do wanna say, since I'm talking already, to the point made earlier about maybe tenants not raising issues in a timely manner, right? As a tenant myself, sometimes the reason for that is maybe I wanna see if the issue goes away. Maybe I have already mentioned it and maybe I'm trying to, you know, there are many, or maybe I didn't realize there's an issue with a bigger building situation before I even noticed there's an issue. So like, I think there are a plethora of reasons why tenants might take longer to report issues, but I do think it's, you know, it is the management's responsibility, once that report is submitted, to investigate and respond, right? So I did want to make that point earlier, just from.
So the letter is going to include 1 month.
Yeah, 1 month, and so motion on the floor.
Second.
We had a second.
Yeah, we all
here.
seconded
How
And
many-
we made a couple adjustments, we're good.
Who's in favor? Raise your hand if you're in favor. Let me just see. And, okay. So, opposed, well,
Peony?
all right, opposed. P&E, present not eligible. Oh, yeah, that's right. Travis?
Abstain. I'm on the CHDC board.
So you're P&E.
P&E,
right?
Thank you, Penny.
That's P&E? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Oh, my goodness. Mark, thank you so much for being here, till after 8. Thank you for everyone who came for that. Ryan, thank you for coming in today. I did not expect it to be that long. All right, so we're on to the next thing. And the next thing, yes, Mark.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mark.
No problem. I do have to hop off now. I did want to
Yes, we're
say,
done. You
yeah,
are
no,
done.
thank you, but
Bye. Thank
I
you.
wanted to
Thank
say,
you.
I think there are a couple of CHDC tenants who are present who are expecting to have short floor time, like a minute or two, to like speak individually. I just wanted to say, like, they came, like,
Oh,
and
because they
attended
didn't
this
raise,
meeting.
no one raised their hand. I didn't realize anybody wanted to.
Yeah, apologies. I flagged that too late. I do have to hop off now, but yeah, I just wanted to flag that.
Oh, yeah, there are little hands going up. All right. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys aren't done yet.
thank you. All
Have
right.
a good night, everyone.
All right, well, we are going to make it very brief. Nelly, can you bring them over? I'll give them 1 minute each to speak. It's just that we have another item and it is sure to be.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes, we
You
have
won't time.
Shanti and Judy.
Quiet, I think. Judy? I don't see anyone over here. Shanti. Welcome.
Unmute.
Hi. Oh, you're still on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. If you can just make your comments brief since we
I will.
already.
I will be
I
very brief.
apologize. I didn't mention.
No worries. So I'm Shantae Walker. I am actually the tenant in 554 West 53rd in apartment 7C with the leak from the roof. And I completely disagree with everything that Ryan has said because I have allowed them to have access to my apartment on numerous occasions. I work 6 days a week. They often would not contact me to want to come see the apartment until the day of, but I have always allowed them to come see my apartment. That's one. Recently, they have finally come after all of these years and they've done a water test, which was inconclusive. I did not tell them whenever they come that they can only be here for an hour. I tell them from what time I will be home, and then they tell me when they want to come, and I allow them to come, and I don't give them a time limit. And on the issue of offering,
is there, I forgot what it's called, but, like in my building, they can come in and fix something if they need to, even when I'm not home. Do you have permission
yeah,
to enter?
I don't allow that because I have in the past, and they make a mess. So I want to be here when they come. And so, like I said, I'm very happy that they finally done the water test, but it was inconclusive. So I still don't know when it's going to be fixed. And that's the thing. I don't go to them every time there's a water leak because when I go and tell them there's a leak and then I don't hear anything. And so I'm like, well, I can't keep going back every time. They know that there's a leak because they haven't fixed it. So there's no point in me telling them every single time. The last point that I'll make about this is when she said that they've offered me another apartment. They have never offered me another apartment. I love my apartment. I put a lot of money into it. I don't want to leave my apartment, but it's a bold-faced lie to say that they've offered me an apartment. And I said I didn't want one because that has never happened.
No, actually it was said, my question was about a temporary.
Right, and I'm saying that's never been offered. So I just want to make that clear.
The response was that it was not offered, that they did not want to leave.
Yeah.
No, I have never been offered a temporary apartment or anything.
And she was never offered. Yeah.
So that's the last thing I'm going to say about that. The other thing that I want to say is concerning security. We have had a tenant who went away for work and came back to find that there was someone who had been staying in her apartment. And so obviously it had to be someone that worked in the building because they're the only ones that have keys to access the apartment. And she said that nothing was ever done. You know, she never got any feedback from management about how they were addressing that or what. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanti, for speaking. The only thing I would tell you, I can't imagine being in your shoes and living there and how frustrating that must be for you. I understand the desire to not say anything every time there's a leak because it feels like nothing is occurring. But it would be helpful, for example, here, if every time there is, you document it or you report it, right? So that they have a record and then you can demonstrate, look, I've reported it every time. I would encourage you to reconsider your approach to that.
Well, if that's what they want.
Especially now because we're doing what we're doing here, okay?
Yeah, I will do it every single time if that's what they want. Thank you.
Okay, and Judy.
Yes, thank you. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, okay. I just want to say Mark did a great job of talking about the buildings he's been working with. He's not been working with 30th Street, so I don't think he got the picture of our issues and problems on the table. He did a great job about the buildings he's working with. There have been a lot of problems in this building. We brought in our city council person. I couldn't find the emails for the dates at least twice to get Joe to meet with us.
Judy, you're on 35th or 30th? I can't recall.
30th.
30th. Okay.
There's not been anybody from 35th Street involved at this point. Hopefully they will be, but.
Judy, can you just make your comments brief, please?
I'm trying, but you spent a long time with Mark, and I don't think that building was accurately reflected in that discussion. So I will try to be as brief as possible.
Thank you.
But I do want to get some of this out there.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Again, we had a meeting with Jesse Bodine. It was in 2021, where he said we should talk to our local manager. The local managers have no power. I'm not sure what they do, but they don't have power, and a lot of things don't get resolved at that level. So I think that's an issue that should be looked at. There are lots and lots of problems in the building, way beyond heating issues. And I just have to say, I love that Ryan said there's no problem. During these last 2 weeks, with the heat wave we've been living through, the heat in the building has kept on. And one day the super came up and took the temperature of my apartment. It was 85 degrees. I challenge any of you. I'm a retired public health professional, and I know what unhealthy conditions are. And but that's one issue. There are lots and lots of issues.
Heating is too hot, not that there's no heat. Did I get that right?
When it's cold, there's not enough heat.
Oh.
Now that it's hot out, the heat has been on. Okay, they haven't shut off the system. So I don't know what the issues with suspicious.
Judy, so yes. I did write down the issues you mentioned at full board in February. The next issue you mentioned was water. I didn't understand what that meant. Does that mean
there was an issue of not hot water when there's not enough heat? Again, that's during the winter months.
No hot water during the
Not enough.
not enough hot water. Okay, water, great. And then
we've had elevator issues. We've had laundry issues. Half the time the machines aren't working.
Okay.
I'm looking at the list.
And what about, you had mentioned at the full board, you said no address on the building. What does that mean?
And it's still no. You know how buildings have a number that identifies what the address is?
Yes.
There has been a temporary, almost paper-like address that's been up since this building opened supposedly something like 15 years ago. I've only been here 7 years, so I can't track that far.
Okay.
But
and then
that's just like what and people in the building have been asking for a permanent number to be up. When a car service comes, they don't know where this building is. People come to visit, walk up and down because they don't know.
Judy, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
The lights out. What did that mean?
Okay. This is not a problem at this point, but there are 2 lights out in the front of the building that are a safety issue. And for a time, those lights were out.
Okay.
They're not out now, but they were out. There's flooding in the basement. There's always water coming in the basement. Don't know what that issue is, not resolved. When it rains, The water comes
Judy,
in through the
Judy,
front door.
Judy, I'm gonna stop you, and what I'm gonna ask you to do is, since Mark is working with you, the rest of the issues that
No,
are not
no,
mentioned.
no, we've been asked to be involved, but he is not working with this building. That's why I don't feel that we were adequately represented in his
Okay, so
presentation.
what I would like you to do then, the issues that you do have, if you can put them in an email and send it to Jesse, we can put it into the document, okay?
Okay,
All right, that would be helpful for us to know so that we have clarity and understanding, okay? Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
thank you, and we hope, it's been a long haul, and
Yes,
most
it
of the
has.
tenants don't even want to participate anymore because they don't think anything's gonna happen.
Thank
So
you, I understand that.
that's a real problem.
Nellie? Thank you. All
Does
right.
anybody have?
Oh. We can move on, yeah. Joe, next item?
Yes. So our next item is NYCHA. We have two items, Chelsea next, we have two items in this. First, Nellie, can you put up the table of contents for DEIS? Chelsea NYCHA?
Oh, and I should say, speaking, I had talked about earlier that we were gonna mention when we have a prep meeting or a briefing beforehand. So there was a meeting this past Friday between 10 and 11 a.m. NYCHA presented to CB4, to various stakeholders, including Eric Botcher was there, Councilmember Eric Botcher, Assemblymember Tony Simone was there, somebody else was there. Senator Brad Whaleman and Rob from Nadler's office, Congressman Nadler's office was there. Jamar Adams from Essence was there. I'm sure Related was there. I don't know who was there from Related. We got the in the Dropbox, there's a PowerPoint presentation or a deck of slides for the draft EIS that what came out from it. And essentially, I took I took some notes, not a whole lot. The most important that stood out to me is that by May 12th, that's the end of the 45-day public comment period. Okay, that includes public hearings, 3 of them. The first one is gonna be April 16th, that's a Wednesday, that's via Zoom. April 23rd, that's in person at Fulton. And April 24th, that's a Thursday at Elliott Chelsea, that's also in person. The other thing that stood out was that there's 20 impact areas across 6 alternatives, 20 impact areas. Joe's gonna explain that a little bit more in depth, and that because of feedback and comments from the public, there's 2 new alternatives, a mid-block bulk and rehab and infill, which includes 3 new buildings. And
so we have on our board 2 functions. One is working with the Chelsea Land Use Committee, and that will be meeting at its regular time. I want to note that all of our members are invited to that meeting to participate. We didn't make it a joint meeting, so we don't have a quorum problem, right? So please come to that meeting, and the date is, Nellie?
Next Wednesday.
No,
April 9th?
no.
No, they're not meeting this month.
Chelsea Land Use.
Chelsea Land Use is meeting this month.
Okay.
And the date is?
21st.
The 21st?
Thank you.
Okay, there you go, 21st, April 21st, and that will be either at Fulton or at Elliott. We're wanting to make sure this meeting, which is so important to the tenants, is not at Pier 57, it's very close to where people live, that makes sense. So again, the structure will be, it's the Chelsea Land Use meeting, but our committee members will be able to participate, discuss, but it won't be formal, so we're gonna run into a quorum problem with the 2 committees together. Tonight, we're gonna talk briefly about the specific chapters. Nellie, did you bring it down to that page that I mentioned before? This is the EIS, the table of contents. This is a standard part of it. So we have a proposal, there's the draft environmental impact statement, and then there are, it's a page 20 something. No, remember? Nellie?
Hold on 1 second, Joe. I'm sorry, my screen froze. Give me a minute.
That's what I thought, okay. So it's standard EIS, all different kinds of sections, socioeconomic impacts, housing, land use, DEP, whatever. Now, the Chelsea land use members will take some of those, but we as a housing committee should and want to add on some of those. So one of the first things we're talking about tonight is just in that process what that means. Now, there have been additional alternatives put forth based upon the comments to the scoping session that happened, as there always are in every EIS. Nothing is unusual here. It's this standard process, right? So, and it is, they should note that the majority of the environmental impacts that are not mitigated come from the current proposal, which is the demolition and the new full new construction. So that's also to be expected, because that's a much larger project than would have been presented for renovation and or infill. So we should look at that. I'm going to encourage all of our members between now and the 21st to please look through the EIS, read sections that you find are interesting. And tonight we'll just go through, once Nellie gets her screens and not read again, some of the sections that I think this committee should concentrate on. And therefore we can come prepared to that April 21st meeting to add in our comments. And, you know, and this comments are simple as bullet things that you pick up or want to respond to we're talking about. So that's to that committee, the full real discussion we'll have. Waiting for, how we doing, Nellie? Any possibility?
While Nellie is bringing that up, would you like to describe where in the process the EIS is?
Yes. So this is a draft EIS. We will have a comment period, right? The proposal that, the main proposal that's put forth is a proposal with ULURP and a rezoning. There are other lesser proposals as part of it, 3. We have, our comment period ends May 12th, correct? Maria?
Yes, May
Yes.
12th.
May 12th. And the reason we are talking about this tonight, we'll be talking about it at Chelsea Land Use, because the board will have to take a position on the EIS and these various proposals by our board meeting, the 1st of May. Noted, as Jessica did last night, that there is a town hall that has been scheduled for the end of April. And that will happen before, but after the EIS hearing. We don't want to conflict with that function that we have, which is part of the approval function. Katie?
So, if I understand it correctly, if I'm wrong, the Chelsea Land Use Committee will take up departments categories of the EIS. We should also, but take up the same category.
I think there will be some overlap. We'll talk about it tonight when we get, oh, there we go, we got on the screen.
Joe, this is the document, correct?
Yes, but you want to go down to the section of the table of contents where it begins with the various sections. I think it was page 28 or roughly around there. All right, so Nellie's gonna put on the screen, but there are the headings, and Kevin's lending me his I can't see it.
Fancy.
I can make them up, I know they are. All right, so the various categories, like an EIS, I'm gonna recite them as Nellie finds them, okay? Are land use, socioeconomic impact, open space, community facility use, shadows, historic, resources, urban and visual design, natural resources, hazardous materials, water, solid waste removal, energy, transportation, air quality, green meaning environmental issues, noise, public health, neighborhood impact, construction impact, environmental impact, and then there's always a section about mitigation, right?
If we take something, even if it's not specific to this committee.
Right. Well, no, I think we should focus on things that we have understanding, expertise in. Like, I don't think we should be looking at like DEP or something environmental. It's not our expertise, but certainly like for socioeconomic impact is something that we will deal with, right?
Nellie, the page number.
Yeah, Nellie. Well, no, I'm in the Dropbox. Nellie, a little bit. Try page 26 or 28. Just put it in the box. Yeah. Now go down a little bit. No. Kevin's gonna try to open it for me so I can get to it. Okay? And then I'll tell you which page to go to.
Okay.
You could also alternatively look at the presentation that was provided, because it has a template.
Yeah. Anything in front of you so I can help on this.
Sure.
Roberta's gonna pull the presentation so I can make this a little bit easier.
The internet is obviously.
And we're off again.
Oh, no.
That's part of it.
Joe, while we're reading on Nelly, can I ask, yesterday, last night's meeting, when, council member Roger was talking, I had to step out for a phone call. I'm wondering if anybody asked whether he is in favor or against demolition.
He actually spoke up. He did not say favor against demolition, but he said he's interested in 3 items. And please correct me if I'm wrong. One is moving the bulk to the mid blocks away from the avenue. The second one was exploring the idea of integration. And the third one, I'm trying to Carl, that's the question.
Sorry, I wrote it. You said the
Joe, is it this?
No.
No, I got it.
But you also, there is the presentation for the electeds. It has a big like list of the 20 impact areas, and that might be more digestible if you're able to pull it up.
And Roberta's giving me the.
So if you'd like to read it.
Yeah, so, and I will read it, but Nelly, the document is the overview for the electeds. It's an actual PowerPoint or a PDF. Yes?
and I would just, so to your point, and other ways to better integrate the buildings to avoid nitrogen density and segregated through buildings. Also, working on mass digging and sort of bulk and height, which is the 10th Avenue side, and as well as reaching for the deepest amount of affordability.
Yes, the last thing was for any additional housing built, you get the most affordability in those groups. So, but he did not publicly say, I am in favor of the demolition in this way. All of our elected officials honestly do not say the words demolition. It's important, it's part of it, it's whether we are for or against, that's what it is, it's demolition or replacement. So we're gonna work through this because let's go stay on the DEIS first, right? So what are the kinds of things? Understand that there are significant adverse impacts because of the particular proposal chosen, which is demolition and building of much larger dense buildings. And those impacts are in shadows, historic and cultural resources, transportation, construction, air quality, noise, hazardous materials. And those are the big issues. Now, I'd like to ask our committee here to think about the areas that we would normally focus on, right? So I'm saying, number one, I believe definitely socioeconomic impacts, no question, right? There are some land use impacts, but more about the housing side of land use impacts, not the bulk and the, that sort of thing. That's a different matter. That's for the land use committee. We certainly want, the socioeconomic impacts flow out of the degree of market rate housing included in the plan, for example. And then construction, because that is something in housing, we would definitely think about how do people live through this sort of redevelopment? How is it managed? How is a school managed? Things we talked about before in our committee. And shadows, because we're talking about shadows on Chelsea Park and PS 33.
Isn't there usually public health too somewhere?
Yes,
Yeah, I think you're focusing solely on.
on the average impacts.
Untitled Chapter.
I know there are, I know,
You delineated them before.
yeah.
Great.
I'm trying to see in this thing, yes.
If I could please, all right.
Definitely.
Chapter 1, land use, zoning and public policy. 2, socioeconomic conditions. 3, community facilities and service. 4, open space.
So stop right there for a second. Land use, zoning, public policy, the housing policy is what we should focus on, not the land use policy.
5, shadows. 6, historic and cultural resources. 7, urban design and visual resources. 8, natural resources. 9, hazardous materials. 10, water and sewage infrastructure. 11, solid waste and sanitation services. 12, energy. 13, transportation. 14, air quality. 15, greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. 16, noise abatement and control. 17, public health. 18, neighborhood character. 19, construction. 20, environmental justice. 21, mitigation.
So let's go from the bottom up. and just talk about this. Okay. Okay, environmental justice. Again, I think this is gonna be handled by the land use committee pretty much, and waterfront parks and environment. We're also taking this up this month.
So, John, I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Clearly, we are not discussing that at this meeting this evening. What we're doing is we are assigning, or people
Correct.
volunteering in order
That's
to
right.
pick certain areas. There may be some things that the land use committee may be taking up, but if people are very passionate about it, should still be able to volunteer. So I think that if we have folks in
Got
the room that have is, and they take that path, and then you identify the specific ones that are related to housing, health, and human services, and we assign income volunteers.
So let's go for the bottom of the list, and please now I need the hands raised, that's what, who's interested in what?
And we have it on screen.
And we have it on screen, great,
Yay.
and we have it on screen, so let's go to environmental justice. Any takers on that? Okay, we're gonna move on next.
There was.
There was?
It was not.
There was not, it's not something that's
No, I said any takers and no one responded.
Oh, I see, okay.
Construction. This is something I definitely think we should be discussing and affect.
Yeah.
Construction, Paul, okay?
Yeah. You can count me in on that, I think.
And Pete.
And Pete, neighbor character, John Danielle.
Are you concerned about the effects on the larger Chelsea communities?
And that's what neighbor character is about. Yes, yes. Next, public health, sounds like Kevin. Next. Noise abatement and control.
Can I help with public health?
Yes, you can, of course. That's what I'm just, we're trying to record this on YouTube so we get all the pieces going here.
Part of construction.
It sounds like it.
All you have to do is read it and give some responses on, in a bullet way, show what that means. Okay, noise abatement and control.
Happy to.
Great, Katie, perfect. Katie with K.
And Paul.
Yeah,
And Paul with P.
everything's part of it, right?
Greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. Let's leave this to Marty. What do you say?
And I will.
Yes, yes. Roberta, next. Good, next. Good. Thank you so much. Air quality.
That sounds like an environmental thing.
That sounds like environmental. That sounds like a Christine Bertay issue. Next. Transportation.
That's a Christine
Energy. Want the clock?
What else?
Next. Okay, solid waste and sanitation services.
That's on that.
You love it.
Oh, so we got Katie?
Katie?
I thought Katie got it.
Katie with C. Water and storm infrastructure.
That's a Marty.
That's someone.
Okay, next. Hazardous materials. Okay, next. Natural resources. Okay, next. Urban design and visual resources.
Wow, Aaron. Oh, I'm following.
No, on this committee here, this committee. Yeah, I will volunteer.
Yeah, I didn't see Julie.
Yeah. Historic and cultural resources. Roberta, Joe, and then many people from there.
I'll join you too. Yeah.
Great. So it's good because they'll put a bunch of eyes on one chapter and then we can all put our bullets together and organize.
And the data will be recognized.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, shadows. Going up, next. Open space,
I'll take shadows and open space.
they're separate.
I will
Both?
do both of them, yeah. Land use Rachel will take shadows and housing Rachel. Take
And co-chair committee will say, God bless you, moving ahead, next. Community facilities and services, now this is our bailiwick, guys.
Oh, wow.
Okay, community facilities and services, Katie? Maria, also, Maria,
Yes.
right? And Travis, perfect. Okay, next. Socioeconomic conditions, yes, a bunch of us are there, so that's myself,
Everyone.
Roberta. I would say, I'd ask everybody to read the socioeconomic
Yeah.
conditions, because that's really a big.
Everyone.
Land use, zoning, and public policy.
Also.
All right, so I would ask everybody just to look at that chapter, maybe a little bit dense. What was that chapter? Land use, zoning and public policy. So first of all, this is a really good means and methods here to deal with the official charter assignments we have to do, right? So we're gonna work this in a way, I will set up a Google Doc or some other sort of document like that for people to put their comments into, so we organize it in one place, right? We'll figure out how to do it, Rachel and I will work on that. Well, no, it's, I have the ability to do it too, but I wanna.
Google Doc with tabs.
Yeah.
With tabs for every
Well,
chapter.
can I ask you to work with Matt Sullivan from my office on that, because he's super together on that, it'll help us be better organized, with this, that's all.
Yes,
Right.
we've done it for the budget.
Yeah, we've done it before, right, but it's gonna be a little bit,
This is due Monday.
no, it's not.
Yes, teacher.
No, it's not, no, we have to have it in a few days before the Chelsea land use meeting, so it can be put into their Dropbox to look at as they think about stuff.
So do we discuss it at the Chelsea meeting? or
There was gonna be a full discussion, and our membership, this committee, will be able to speak as if they were members of that committee without officially convening the two
So if
committees.
we take one of these things, we can.
Absolutely, myself, Maria, Kerry, and Greg and Jessica met with Jesse. We talked about how to manage this, and that's the solution we came up with. That's their committees, but we're all in, we're gonna talk back to each other,
And
right?
Joe, can I just ask, so our committee is meeting on May 1st. The full board isn't meeting until May 7th, and you said comments are due on May 12th.
No, we have to put our comments in before the April 21st Chelsea land use meeting, so
Right.
they can be discussed.
Right,
And then there will be a reconciliation among the four chairs
and
How
then
the
will
hell
that
we're
be
getting
voted
this
on at full board?
at full board in May, in order to make our
On
May
May
7th board, to make our May 12th.
Deadline. That's what I was just trying to confirm, okay.
Right, there is a little bit of wonkiness here with two.
Yeah, this is May, right?
Yeah, our
May-
meeting,
I
our
believe
meeting
is
happens,
May 8th.
no, our meeting is the 1st.
Yeah.
It happens before full board.
Well, last time that it happened, we actually moved it, if you recall.
Yes, because we can
When
do
it
that.
fell on a date before full board.
They have the agenda in the April newsletter.
Yeah,
As like a placeholder for.
yeah, but irrespective, we will not be able to discuss this again before the letter has to be drafted for the full board.
Yeah, that's why the Google Doc has to happen. 'cause-
That's right, because we get all of our comments, put them into this document, bring that to Chelsea Land Use, they have their comments, and then we do the four chairs do the co-chairs do the reconciliation of the response.
So should we have things by Thursday the 17th?
I think that's good. Yeah, Thursday 17th, worse the Friday, the 18th. So that is our charter mandated portion, right?
And that gives us 2 weekends.
Yes, 2 weekends, that's right. So first of all, thank you all for bearing that, and thank you, Kevin, thank you, Roberta, because I was completely technology lost on that one for a second. So that is our one subject for Chelsea NYCHA. The next Chelsea NYCHA subject is, honestly, we as a community board have been working with our elected officials, with the tenants association, with various neighborhood groups from Chelsea. Well, everyone's been involved in it. And we're trying to figure out something simple. What is our path forward on this topic? And we know very much what people are in favor of or not in favor of. We know that there's a split among different groups at NYCHA. We know there's a split among the tenant associations. These are all real things and facts on the ground, right? So I think it is at this point important to say not anymore what we don't want, but what we do want. And begin to realize that that's the process that happened with the whole Chelsea NYCHA working group. We started out with a bunch of issues and figured out, okay, here's where we can land on consensus on things. Does this mean this public discussion with town halls and meetings and, the Chelsea Concerned Neighbors and the Chelsea Reform Democrats and the Chelsea Council Block Association and the Tenant Association of LA Chelsea and Fulton are all gonna be happy dapping and singing, we're, kumbaya, we're together here? No, we're not. But we have to start to say, what do we want? Because I will say one thing at this point. It is clear that our elected officials are pretty much tone deaf to the split in the community. It's real, it's in our faces, and no one can say absolutely today that the majority of the tenants on both campuses are in favor of any one plan. And that's just the reality. So the point of it is, don't we want to make sure we do something that at least maybe 60 or 70% of the people want, or somewhere in between? And this is a problem, because we seem to have some sort of odd vacuum of leadership. Miguel and the Fulton Houses Tenant Association, I get the sense, I can't see it. So, all I can say is anecdotally, right? Anecdotally, my sense of going to, I don't know, 142 meetings at this point, something like that. Maybe 200 meetings at this point, that a lot of people there lean more toward demolition and full replacement. That's my sense, right? I don't get the same sense from the people that I've heard at NYCHA. It's not that necessarily at all. I know that one of the things that I participated in was achieving consensus around rad pack conversion, section 8, because section 9 did not have the money to do any major renovation. Because the way in which this change and pivot on the plan happened, we lost that consensus. So now there's a lot of people that I hear from who just want section 9. Although I will say personally, I don't believe it's going to be possible whatsoever. We got to just hear it out and go through it. Because the sad part is, I sat in meetings where people were opposed to certain things, and because we diligently worked with each other, week after week and subcommittee after subcommittee, we hit somewhere in the middle. And at this point, I believe that this board is the only vehicle to try to get people back together, to hit somewhere in the middle. I am also very concerned of the pieces of information that have come out as claims that are not facts. And that's disturbing, because in this process, the facts keep shifting when the claims are here. I still say, I don't know how the project grew from $366 million to $1.9 billion, but I bet you it's somewhere in between, really. You know, I don't know how I can sit in a room with my elected officials, majority of whom I've worked with, respect, and deal with every day, and they say to me, this is the only way things can happen, when we see across the city these rad-packed renovations that are done with multiple developers at multiple locations. And by the way, some are different degrees of good, right? Some are good, some are not. It all depends, right? But we know they're being done every day. And we know that because NYCHA is putting out press releases every other week about what they've done and what they've been able to accomplish. We need to recognize as a community that has hung together for decade after decade in terms of trying to help NYCHA and the tenants who live in these NYCHA buildings, that we did this because we hung together as a community. And I'm gonna go back to a very specific thing that came out of the West Chelsea Points of Agreement and rezoning. Miguel and I and members of this board and members of the tenant associations of NYCHA and Fulton went through a very serious public process to get 2 additional buildings built on those campuses. And they were buildings that were built at a range of incomes. They were built for both NYCHA tenants' affordability, but their children's affordability, because people are doubled and tripled up in NYCHA apartments. Miguel and I took this show on the road and talked to people and made it clear that, don't you have your family members, your kids living with you? Oh, this one works for sanitation, this one's a nurse. They can't get into NYCHA, the waiting list is too long. But these buildings, they would qualify for. And even at the end of that, they still didn't come out perfect, and we had to negotiate yet again to figure out what to do. And we preserved parking and did all kinds of things, moved dumpsters. We moved heaven and earth to get something to happen, because everyone was in the same corner to make it happen. We as a community have gotten totally divided. That's a fact. If we don't get a way to figure out somewhere in between in the middle, this project, my concern, is going to be something will happen, something won't happen. And I don't believe bluntly, and I want to say this to all my colleagues and all the members of the public here, every single piece of information we've been given has turned out not to be true. The start of this with, if we do this demolition and new construction, it's going to be quicker. It's going to be 6 to 8 years, 10 years, like the times keep changing, the money keeps changing. But the big thing we discovered, which was never disclosed ever, is that for any funds, we were told we're only going to do new construction to the degree to make sure there's funding for Elliott, Chelsea, and Fulton, whether it's renovation or reconstruction. That's what we need to do it. What we've learned in the past couple of months is that NYCHA has considered that Chelsea NYCHA is a piggy bank to create ongoing cash flow and a revenue stream for the city and for NYCHA overall. That was never disclosed, never taught. Our council member does not like that.
Supported.
No, and not support it because, well, first of all, you couldn't support it because you didn't even know about it to begin with. And then it comes out and we find out about it. And I have sat in multiple meetings with NYCHA where that story and related has changed month after month after month, right? And now it's extremely clear that a driver here is not just additional affordable housing. It's, and I use an interesting word, monetizing. It's taking the value of the land in the Chelsea NYCHA campuses to create an income stream for repairs and stuff for NYCHA citywide. And my fear is, as we sit in this room, whatever we do is a precedent. On the west side, we always get involved in the cutting edge of housing and difficulty. And whether it's city-owned buildings that the city didn't want to sell to tenants, and then we forced them to do it, then they sold others to developers, like some of those buildings on West 49th Street that we had to deal with before, right? We are always at the cutting edge of it. Whatever happens here will affect any high-value land, such as the Amsterdam houses just west of Lincoln Center. And by the way, if we as a city and a populace make a decision that the way to redevelop NYCHA is to demolish it and redevelop it, then let's talk about that just that way and be honest about it. But all of the roundabout stuff has been very frustrating for me as a housing practitioner to engage with. Yes, Laura. And then I'll go to you.
Yeah. So I understand that you're level setting here.
Yeah, so I'm doing.
But the goal is to get back where we were at the beginning of the conversation. It's bringing the community together.
Yep.
And identifying what the needs are and what the wants are and crafting a request that is plausible. And having that as our manifesto, this is what we want, right?
Right, what we want.
Right, what we want. Here's my question to you, both co-chairs. I don't think that that is something that was ever accomplished within a committee. That was accomplished with the broad community. And how are you proposing that we restart that?
Let me get back to that in 1 second.
Okay.
So I want to give another concrete example. During the course of our whole work with the Chelsea NYCHA working group, we realized the big problem is the guild. Those things of how do you keep the guild in operation with all the social service programs that service, by the way, not just Chelsea NYCHA, but all the Chelsea and Hell's Kitchen communities at this point. Well, we came up with a specific plan to keep the guild in place and build a new facility right in front of it. So it never had to leave the campus, right? And we worked on this diligently to figure this out. Miguel and I walked around with Darlene saying, where could this go? How could this happen? What could do? Like, these are the kinds of high level things we have to say, what do we want as a community of the West Side to make sure our people don't get screwed along the way as we figure out a way to make something happen here? Dolores' question. I think we have to take this, that it's going to be a community board effort, but it's got to bring in other members as some kind of a task force or something. We've been talking about this, myself and Maria and Jessica and Kerry and Greg and Jesse. We're not quite certain how we're landing, but that's the idea, that we need to bring in people from other parts of this, other stakeholders, whether it's the tenant associations or whether it's the guild, or whether it's legal aid, all these people who are directly involved. Like, one of the things I'm gonna say over and over, Robert Atterbury and Lucy Newman from legal aid ran a tenant rights subcommittee, and they negotiated an enhanced package of tenant rights for RADPAC that were over and above anything had been done. You would take your Section 9 rights with you, and we did this and we beat this to death. Although Related came many months ago to us and said they would do it, that document does not exist in the master development agreement. So we need to start putting these things, people's feet to the fire, because that's the kind of document, no matter what plan happens, I know that all tenant associations want to make sure that their rights are protected. JD, and then Rita.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't live in Chelsea, so I'm still confused. What is our bottom line? Where are we starting from now?
I agree, we need to get things and be positive, but where are we starting from? Is the deal done? Is it still gotta go?
I'm gonna say again that nothing, all along the way, we have been represented by every developer, by the developers here and NYCHA, that everything is done. And we found out along the way that in fact, it's not all done. I do know factually that there has been a lot of money spent on preparing to get to the deal that Related and NYCHA want to do. I do know that Related, since I went to a meeting in April of 23, has had a full-time PR firm on this, managing messaging, because they were introduced in that first meeting. And so I have never been in my career or my community work ever been involved where there were press conferences done, and it's all, every time you get information, it's all of them out, right? So it says there's something else happening here. And it's not just these tenants who want this or those tenants who want that. There's a broader thing happening. So no, it's not done until it's done, ever, period. It's not approved, it's not, the ULR hasn't started, the DIS hasn't started, the section 18, which is the approval for HUD, has not started. Like, these are all things that we're told we're gonna start. What was it? We're tenants told they had to start moving last April or some crazy, remember, remember, Miguel, like April. It was like April, right? Like they were told, you gotta start packing to move April of 24. I mean, this is it's a juggernaut of press releases and people working all over the place.
So Joe, you did say that we're gonna have demolition. Is that correct? I think you said that at the beginning, so that.
No. The DIS in front of us has 3 plans, one for full demolition, one for some changes, and then one for.
Gotcha.
Preservation.
Actually, there are 5 plans.
There's.
Right, but some are a variation on a theme.
Yeah, timeline is for us to have these discussions where it can be meaningful and.
I believe we organize this effort and we start during the month of April and we continue to do it, because what I'm seeing, quite frankly, is the way this has been managed, and I want to say this honestly to everybody and directly, is all about taking us off our normal community, talking to each other, consensus, figuring things out, and constantly answering the next thing that's being put in front of us, next thing. I want to know that with this Fulton Tenant Association, if that's what they want, then let's figure out how to get it for them, but get it for them in a way that protects everybody, both people who are there and the people who live around them. And if that tenant association doesn't want it, they get what they want to the greatest degree possible. But it's probably gonna be somewhere between two, never perfect at all. Rachel.
So if we were to create something like a task force and put in the meaningful effort,
Right.
how do we ensure that this time, whatever comes out of it, makes it into the master plan?
My answer is you just keep doing something if you want to get somewhere. If we want to roll over as a community, not as a community board, as a community, then we just say, fine, Related, NYCHA, run with this, and we'll see what we get.
Then should that task force at some point include also the developers so that they are
We have to
part of
get,
that and maybe are a little bit held
my
accountable?
answer is community consensus first.
Sure, and then once we have that kind of
Absolutely.
house view, would it make sense for that task force then to invite the developers and say, here's what we have and can you please put it in your.
So what you are describing is what happened for Hudson Yards for the rezoning.
Right.
That we got through this whole process, figured something out, consensus, and then those developers got designated, and they came to us that, and by the way, it happens to be the same developer.
I know,
Just-
that's what I'm saying.
Just saying.
But be fair, we chose that developer. It
Yeah,
was-
100%.
No, but I don't want you to think that NYCHA chose.
This man called me and said, Joe, I gotta say something to you. You're gonna get freaked out a little bit here. We chose Related. I said, listen, if that's the best project, best project.
Yeah.
Period. They were, listen, we achieved we got to that point where the tenants could have input on developer selection because we hung together as a community. And we did it, by the way, during COVID.
And that's how you empower the tenants, is giving them choice and options.
Right.
That is how.
But I want to know that choice and option are also really truly documented and managed. Because I'll tell you something, this whole process we went through, it's a survey, it's a vote, it's a this, it's a that. We'll give it to you, we'll give it to you, we'll give it to you. Finally comes out, and boy, was it mushy and unclear. No, we gotta make sure that everything's totally above board. and managed and monitored, because we want to have everyone wants to have the confidence that this is the final thing. And if some people are against it, guess what? Some people in every project are gonna be against it, and that to me is a normal process, you know?
But at the end of the day, we're talking about NYCHA. NYCHA has no true value whatsoever from the top down.
Right, okay, good, and by the way, Miguel and I have done.
Eliminate NYCHA whatever way we.
Can I just say that, at your many NYCHA meeting, Miguel and I ended up in the bathroom at some point, you know? And we talk about this like, Jesus Christ. No, what I'm saying is like, you're in a meeting for 2.5 hours, you gotta go, right? Like, and we would just go like, oh my God, what did they just say? What, like, the degree of their saying things, not following through, just the weirdness, Miguel. Remember that meeting where they were all gonna come in and they didn't show, and then they came? Like, I've never been in this ever. Katie, it's the weirdest thing, like, they don't tell you, they're not honest nor accurate, and they change from month to month, and I'm not making that up, right? And then they say things like, blah, 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 everything's fine, and the tenants go, no, they're not, and we start pushing in the right direction. Like this whole plan, this whole interim repair plan thing.
Sorry, Joe, to interrupt. What are we doing as a committee right now?
Gotcha, all right, so I wanted to lay this out here, no, I felt it was important to lay out that I think everyone in this room acknowledges there is not a full consensus on how to proceed on every campus in every way. I saw a lot of like heads nodding, right? And I want to offer that as we go ahead, maybe not everything gets done the same, because that's the way you figure things out.
But Charles, I want to,
Yes.
during this whole process, that solution, which I think is a very reasonable solution, has never seemed to be on the table as an option. It's always been like, it's always felt like it's a either or scenario, and that's why
because that's why a major developer, and by the way, we should know something else that's come out in the public discussion.
No, I use them. Oh, okay.
Hi, Betty. I think we lost them in the office. Hold on one second, Betty. Let me give them a call. Hi, everyone. We're having technical difficulties in the office. Give me 1 minute.
please.
Okay, so. We don't know if we succeed, but we're gonna try. And the only sad part for me is normally our elected officials are with us, figuring out how to move ahead and cajole. They're on their own path right now, and that's okay. We have to accept that, right? So here, today, tonight, the idea is we're gonna start this. We're not gonna talk about it tonight, because we're gonna need more time and energy here. But the board will start to convene this, bring the various stakeholders in and talk about it. So we figure out if we can have a true impact. And there's a lasting thing, because I will say here, the legacy of demolition of NYCHA housing has a huge impact across the city. And the idea that NYCHA public land could be used for mostly market rate housing after demolition. I know you guys are all not happy about that idea either. It's all about making finances work, but not giving away our Chelsea NYCHA campus for market rate housing. And to know that it's gonna happen over 15, 18 years, and everyone's counting on all of us disappearing, you know? Miguel moves to Florida, Pete has a heart attack, I'm in a nursing home, you know, all this shit. I'm just. But you know though, what I wanna say, what I wanna say one thing. This is, no, I did this on purpose. This is how we got through those friggin' subcommittees in the Chelsea NYCHA working group. We talked to each other like human beings, and we joked and laughed and yelled back and forth and hit something in the middle. Because we are all in the same boat here. We're not separate. We're all in the same boat.
Okay, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Public policy, you're absolutely right, I understand you, but are you saying this is the committee's goal, or is this our board wants to bring everybody together and come to a resolution? Is that the board is deciding to do that? Or
The two committee chairs, Chelsea Land Use and Housing, that with Jesse and Jessica saying, we got to figure out how to do something here. How do we move this discussion ahead? So it's a positive path forward, not just a no, or only this. And so that's why we're talking about this for the first time. A constructive way forward and bringing everybody in. And I want to say honestly, in the past, our board has led with the various stakeholders of whatever development, our elected officials along. In this case, they made a decision and there's not a lot of listening.
And so to achieve this goal, the idea is to set up a committee or a
task force
or something, and to try to get everybody together to herd the cats and come to something.
Because we're all a bunch of cats anyway. We all got a bunch of opinions. We got people all over the place. We're gonna try. While at the same time, we go through the legal process, DEIS, ULERP. We're not like stopping the world, but we know we can keep on doing stuff and then affect the process. Now I want to open to the public because we've been very calm. I'm gonna recognize Layla first, and then actually, can I recognize the tenant association presidents first? Let me do that first. Renee? Oh, no, hold on, David. I want to talk to the TA president. Either Renee or Miguel, whoever.
Renee.
No, you know how to do the part of this.
Miguel.
You know, the most important thing is we need to find a healthy home for the residents of Fulton Hill and Chelsea today. Because we live in disgusting conditions. It goes beyond our public safety. It goes about our health. We have lead, we have asbestos, we have no heat every single winter. We have the homeless that live there.
On the roofs, in the
On the
stairwells.
roofs, in the stairwells. We have open drug dealing going on. And if we continue to try and stall it, because that's what I'm saying. It was mentioned by one of the board members. Are we trying to?
No pause,
We
just
don't
keep on
want
going.
that. We gotta keep going. We need to all work together. But the only way we're gonna work together is understanding the needs of the residents of Fulton, LA, and Chelsea. We can't continue going backwards. We're not gonna get nowhere. You mentioned someone who's totally against the plan, legal aid. They're totally.
No.
You said Lucy Newman and
No,
legal aid.
no.
No, I'm saying they're against the plan.
Oh,
She's against, she's publicly come out.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
So I don't need a legal aid being, we
need that for tenant rights.
Right, but we have attorneys that we hire, that we're paying for, who represent the residents to make sure the legality behind everything is done correctly. And we did not hire legal aid.
I just want to note that you have attorneys, and I'm assuming those attorneys are funded by the developer, correct?
No,
They're funded by
NYCHA.
NYCHA. Oh,
NYCHA has the funding.
fine, so NYCHA funded that.
Yeah.
There may be other groups who want to work with legal aid, and that's fine.
Yeah, we don't have a problem.
Right, the point of it is, whoever represents the tenants, it's about the tenant protections.
That's all I'm.
Not about their position on a plan, that's what we want
But
here.
you talk about one thing, it's section 9, the rights
Yeah,
to return. And then you talk about how section 9, one of the things that was brought up, that I don't know how the conversation came up, where residents can move into the mixed income building.
Hmm?
That's HPD. Those are not public housing buildings. You don't get the same rights.
I'm sorry, but in fact, across the country,
Yeah.
there have been mixed income buildings with public housing, RAD packed in them. Period, across the country, it's done all the time.
We're told it's not.
I know, I understand what you've been told, I'm talking about my housing professional research people I know all over the place, it has been done, and I can give you the citations to look at it.
Is that here in New York as well?
Huh?
Is that here in New York as well? It's been done?
We're
getting to the- see, yeah.
Tenant associations have
Yeah,
their
oh, yeah,
comments,
go
and
ahead.
other people have their comments.
Keep going, Miguel.
So that's my, is to protect the residents from not living
In the same
the
conditions.
same conditions, because we create a pause, or we create, no, I know you're saying no pause, but I'm saying, once this EIS is done by the end of next month, this month actually, then the developer has a right to go forward.
No,
As long as it's, wait, he has, as a right, the first building is as a right, Joe. You gotta let the committee know that, it's as a right, the first building.
let me note again, that the developer has to get not just an EIS approved, they have to go through the section 18 process with HUD,
Right,
and they can build as of right buildings, but those are subject to successful and full relocation of hundreds of tenants.
right, so right, in Fulton houses, it's only 35 residents.
Correct, so that's what I'm saying, right, but in Elliott, it's many more,
And
right?
Elliott is 80. So we have.
president is
Yeah,
here.
So they're gonna speak,
But what we have, the relocation, what NYCHA done for years is they help vacant units for the residents to move into.
Let me stay with
and
Dolores
they're
for a
now being
moment.
renovated right
What
now.
you're actually saying now is the next step of this process,
Right.
but I wanna make something really clear. Now that we have a DIS in front of us, it has multiple options. And because we're saying no pause, we keep on continuing with those multiple options as we figure out how to come to some kind of consensus.
Right.
Okay, let's go to Renee. Thanks, Miguel.
So I haven't been about this process for years. I'm sure you're gonna say, where have I been? I've been here.
You're here.
I know, but Miguel
Travis.
said, I don't know where you've been, Renee, you were having all these meetings. Let's be quite real, you were having these meetings, the rest of us were not there. So yes, it is important that the residents of Elliott, Chelsea and Fulton have good housing, that they have good conditions. But we all know that there's been nothing but lies going on from the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm glad you all finally realize that. Some of us knew this from the beginning, and you knew it's a fact. This is not gonna be pretty. There's big discrepancies in everything. Trust factor, forget it, it's gone. When NYCHA didn't show up, they showed up. When Related had its press who are also Eric Adams press, something's going on. So right now, we're just at a stalemate. Nothing's getting done. Our electeds want to demolish us, and now because they don't want to rate this through the segregation process of only putting us into the campus, they're ready to integrate us into the mixed income housing. Don't know how that is.
The proposed mixed
The proposed mixed income housing, as this is a proposed demonstration. As people keep saying, is it a done deal? If you bother to look at the February 26th Committee on Public Housing hearing, you will hear Jonathan Gilbert say, no, there is no deal. No, the application has not been out. This has all been said, it is public, 3 hours and 10 minutes in. It has been told you, it is not a done deal. But we keep being asked these questions. So this is where we're at. It's not gonna be pleasant. This was not done in the vein of light. There has been a lack of transparency on this process from the beginning, and it continues now. Right now, it's gonna be hard. And everyone needs to understand that. There is no trust anywhere. And I mean anywhere Anything that comes out of someone's mouth, I assure you, I am looking at twice and I'm going back over meetings that have been had. So let's be real honest. This is not just NYCHA, it has been related. So let's not say we have a possibility of doing something wonderful here. Related has been lying from the beginning, NYCHA has been lying from the beginning. This has been a wholesale farce.
I
And
think,
it's our lives.
right, I think, Renee, that many members of this community, or a community, have come to that realization slowly but surely. It doesn't mean that even with people that you can't trust, you can't do a deal at the end of the day. And that does happen, because
I'm sure it does.
Because we've had
That's
to-
how they own the west side.
Because we've had to do it in this community without, we had to do it because in order to survive. So all I wanna say is that the goal here is to, set the level, think about it, and then figure out how we begin to move ahead. That's all.
One thing
Because
I'd
there
like
is,
to add-
there is no one solution, and that's the part that I wanna say to everyone in the room, there's no one solution. And anyone that tells you that there's one solution, they're lying to you. Layla,
But one thing
and
else,
David,
I know
yes.
nothing about a lawyer, so I don't know who. I met this guy, Goldstein. He walked into development when Darlene was having a meeting. He sat down, he said nothing. We basically had to ask him who he was, what he said if this deal was going through because the mayor wanted it. That's what he said.
And we know the mayor's running as independent now.
Yeah.
So let's go to Layla and then David Wolf.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Joe, for your leadership on all of that. I have one question and one comment. I think what Renee was saying about the lack of trust is something to be really taken very, very seriously. We have no idea what's going on. You read the documents, first of all, they are just so opaque and so difficult to read that, it really behooves NYCHA to do a better job at educating the community, educating the tenants. The second thing is, when he said, the approval process is incredibly complicated and layered. Right now, we're in NEPA. It is a federal review. It is HUD that is the lead agency. It needs to go through so many more layers. So saying it's a done deal, I mean, you may believe it's a done deal as in, well, when related wants something, they get it. But as far as, the technicality of the statute, no, it's not a done deal. It's far from a done deal. The other thing that I will say is that understanding the money piece is really, really critical. And I know that, we don't like to look at spreadsheets, but I am really encouraging and urging this committee to, make the effort and, go beyond the gag reflex, look at the numbers, and once you start understanding what's in it for related, you will understand that this project relies 93% on public funding. It is rents being paid by HUD.
By Section
It
8.
is bonds issued against these rents paid by HUD, and those bonds are public money. And then it is low-income housing tax credits. Once again, public money. Once again, it's like you look at it and you're like, oh my God.
And let me stop for a second so people understand. It's flavors of public money. It's not like there's a grant. It's a bond that happens in a certain way. Tax credits are part of the IRS code. The rents are allocations, that's actual real money. And that's the problem. People think it's all one big, it's a bunch of things coming together.
Yeah, but in the end, related is not putting much of their own money. In order to demolish a building, they have to make a check for $2.5 million. That's their deposit. They want to dig a hole in the ground and then they feel that, they don't really like it anymore, that the tariffs, that's not what they expected. Steel and aluminum is still expensive. It no longer pencils out. They'll dig the hole in the ground.
Or conversely, they may come back to our joint communities of tenants and community and say, the only way to make this work is to do condominium units here at $4,000 a square foot. So we need to think every step of the way that we have to embrace change and embrace it in a way that secures good, solid homes for people in various ways. But where there's no altruistic developer here working for us. They're not doing that. They're not working on the tenant's behalf, nor on the community's behalf. And I say this to our electeds over and over, they're not altruistic, period. They're just not. And that's why we have to protect every stakeholder in this. David, on the
Yeah,
meeting.
and then to my question, is NYCHA going to give a presentation to the public? Because if I understand what was said at the beginning of this presentation, NYCHA did give a presentation to a closed door group.
No, they gave a briefing, as they would do always for, any agency gives a briefing before coming to a public hearing. We have to have a public hearing on this, and that'll happen in May. Sure.
So the public hearing will happen after the comments on the draft EIS?
No, I believe our public hearing will happen at our May board meeting. That's what normally happens.
Are you talking, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
did you mean the pre-hearing, the Zoom,
The-
April 16th, 23rd,
No, no.
24th meeting?
No, I'm talking about having the opportunity to have NYCHA in the room, and we are the ones. who like-
NYCHA is required under the environmental process through seeker or NEPA to have public hearings. Those 3 public hearings are scheduled today. It is my knowledge, it is my belief, I could be wrong, that our community board, as part of that process, will have our own public hearing before our community board meeting in May, because we're gonna be taking up this major process. We always have public hearings on it.
So I'm confused about the timeline. There's going to be 3 public hearings.
As required, that they
held
must.
by HPD and NYCHA,
Right.
one on the 16th, one on the 23rd, one on the 24th.
That's right.
There will be, according to NYCHA, they just responded to me, they will give a brief presentation at the beginning of these hearings. But the
Yes.
purpose of these hearings is for us, the public.
For the public to
go
respond to the
microphones
agencies.
and
That's
give
right.
a 3-minute comment.
That's right.
We would make much more educated 3-minute comments if we had had the chance to sit down, have NYCHA answer our questions, including on
So
what is.
let me just note, Leila, the entire tactic here is not to get that information to the community to be able to be fully educated. It's obvious and clear to me. I've watched how this agency works. I've worked with HPD. They frequently come out and give us all the information, talk to us, engage before, during, afterward. That's not, we're not gonna change.
Is there any way?
So
No.
Joe, Layla's asked, can we ask for that? So that's what we should be going back and asking, even if we think it's no.
I would say we should ask for that, but I'm gonna say, I wanna set expectations super low on this. We may not get any response, or they may not come at all. Whenever they come, they're gonna come with an incredibly gobbledygooky presentation that is non-transparent. So I'm just concerned about putting out efforts into something that the return is not supposed. I'm looking at her, I'm like, yeah.
I would like to request that if NYCHA refuses to come, that you make sure that it stands as, you know, a big fat line up front, so that people understand that, you know, they did not even make the effort.
In the past, we have put empty chairs at a public meeting where someone doesn't know. Yes.
So just so we're clear, so are we making a motion to send a letter to ask NYCHA?
No, I think this is procedural. It's not really a,
That's a Jesse thing.
yes, it's really like administrative. Because he's the one who secures agencies to come to public meetings, you know. It's
The
not,
letter has to be voted on the meeting and it's too late.
yeah,
It has to be voted on by the full board, it's too late.
So, but it sounds like you're asking for a public meeting to happen in the next 2 weeks, is that right? Before the April public hearings.
My general comment is that I think that it would be, you know, smart community engagement for NYCHA to appear at a community board meeting and give the opportunity for the public to ask questions and for these questions to be.
Leila, at the risk of making you laugh, smart community engagement NYCHA.
I know.
Okay, so let's just, I think we should make the ask, see if we can get something, but I'm very, our expectations to set everything. I want to give and you gotta be very brief and to the point. David Holoka.
Practical suggestions for reviewing the draft environmental.
That's what I wanted.
impact statement. Start by reviewing CB4's comments on the draft scope of work.
Originally, from whatever day.
Yes. Yeah, that's-
So
that's
Nellie, can I ask you to put the draft comments that we did already into the Dropbox so they can get it easy?
Right. Also look at other comments. The elected officials provided written comments, as did the Attorney General's office.
In the original scope.
They are in the appendix number 2 to the draft environmental impact statement. And I just want to go to one image because no one will understand it as it's presented. It is the presentation image of the non-demolition plan in the alternatives section.
We can't do that right now. I want you to know what it is and I'll get that image extracted and sent to everybody.
He wants to.
But you can
see it
just
on the
say-
screen.
It'll just take,
We can do it. All right. Is Nellie gonna be able to find this easily?
It's in the alternative section, it is the last pair of images. This is the non-demolition option.
No, you first have to say which document. Kevin's gonna find the document and then we'll,
What folder is it?
what folder is it? You got it.
It's in the- You're gonna have to spread them out so I can read them. No, it's in the draft,
Presentation?
sorry,
You can also
I
say.
saw the image earlier tonight.
Was it in the
Executive
this
summary.
presentation or in the executive summary, like the presentation?
It's this page.
So now we go along in that document that you had up earlier, which is the executive summary. Can you bring that up again?
And we know we're making you work for your
It's
money.
actually not the executive summary, but everyone should read the executive summary and look at the alternatives chapter so that it's your point of reference for analyzing everything else. Incidentally, there were alternatives asked for by CB4 that were not presented.
Not shocked.
Right.
So again, we wanted to open this as a discussion on how we can figure out a way to get all of us back together in the same room. Because if we could have done it with Mary McGee, Michaela, I think we can do anything.
And others.
And others. Oh, here we go.
And it's on page 11, it seems.
Page 11 of the PDF or page 11 of the document?
11 of the PDF.
11 of the PDF now.
Okay, because every time I go to the page, it turns into a different page. Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry.
It's an unwieldy PDF document.
Yeah, I was reading through it, it kept kicking me out. We got, we're in the 5-minute home stretch here, so hang in.
Hold on.
We got you on the screen, otherwise we're not gonna understand.
The future.
David just.
Yeah, I can transfer.
Yeah.
But I can't. When you get to the non-demolition option, this is what it shows for Elliott Chelsea. There's kind of a big blob here that's dark gray. You would not know what this is.
That's an infill building around.
Tell me when to stop.
But they don't even describe.
There we go, oh, good, you're getting there.
What?
This one?
That's not a lot.
No, keep going.
Page down.
They're the last two images in that chapter.
Keep going.
No, now it's too far, no. I saw the image, I know what you're talking.
Keep going, keep going.
We're sorry to make you suffer, Nellie.
It's okay.
Is it a page somewhere?
But they're both 72 pages.
These are alternative number, which number is it? Is that word number 4 right now?
David, I think we're too
This is
far.
alternative 4. This is alternative 4.
Okay, guys. Again, I will have the page extracted, you can see it.
Oh, we can see that.
This,
So what is
this
it?
big blob is not a full height building. They didn't even bother to label the heights of these elements as they did for all of the other options. There's a tower here. It's this small rectangle at one end. That is 24 stories tall, contains 110 units. The rest of the dark gray part is a replacement for Hudson Guild.
Which was part of the original plan that we negotiated.
The other image for Fulton houses simply has two little dark elements in between two pairs of the lower rise buildings. They don't even describe these in the text, much less label them or let you know that they're just 1 story tall. Those are commercial, and the only reason I know that is by comparing this with Related's RFP response. And what NYCHA did was to take that RFP response and present it to us again as if it were their non-demolition plan.
So
which we asked them to work up. And the two other RFP respondents both put 4 infill buildings on the Fulton Houses site, and one of them put one very large infill building on the Elliott Chelsea site.
And let me get to the moral of the story. And therefore, instead of actually looking at things that were originally proposed, that would have created more housing, they skipped to it. So it just checks the box as opposed to responds to the question.
Exactly, it's completely perfunctory, it's actually insulting,
But hey, but I know,
you don't immediately dismiss it.
I start out by being insulted. So let's just go over there.
So you, just because you would not know what you're looking at, those are two one-story commercial components there, which they don't even bother to describe. And if we go up to the other image,
Page before this,
yes,
one page before this.
One page prior,
maybe it's one page after.
one page after maybe.
Depends on your stuff.
It's jumping around.
There you go.
Okay.
Right there.
Right, that whole kind of amoeba coming off the senior building is not all high rise. Most of it is just one story, Hudson Guild, and the kind of strange little rectangular form to the south is the 24-story tower, which only has 110 units in it.
So again, we're at the end of a very long meeting. We went through 3 different sections. I think we spent a good time on this section here, right? And then we opened up the conversation of how we move toward a path toward consensus and resolution while not stopping anything along the way. Right?
Anyone comment on my list?
Comments by April 16th or 17th? And can I ask for a motion to adjourn our committee tonight? Oh,
Remind everybody what David just said
Yeah.
of how to approach looking at this. Go back, read the comments, but also now that he's pointed out these alternative plans, look at them, use your imagination, think about what are the things in there that we've already been hearing from the public that they want and how this may fulfill that. If these are things that we want to propose.
Thanks, everybody.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Ellie.
You're welcome.
That's really well.